Hey, Evan, can you hear me?
Yes. Okay. All right, I got the live stream here to share. All right, I got the live stream here to share. We're going to share this. We're going to get this party started. All right. Welcome to the Out 420 pitch. All right, I got the live stream here to share. We're going to share this. We're going to get this party started. All right. Welcome to the Out 420 pitch. All right, I got the live stream here to share. We're going to share this. We're going to get this party started. All right. Welcome to the Out 420 pitch. All right, I got the live stream here to share. We're going to share this. We're going to get this party started. All right. How we doing, Michael? We ready to go to the event? Hey everybody, welcome to the At 420 pitch by WeedClub. It's March 24th, 2020. We're super stoked to have you here today, and we're super stoked to have all of our panelists, friends, and the whole community here. And so welcome. If you're on Facebook right now, please do us a favor and share the screen, and we'll make this thing happen. So today is a really important day. It's time for us to finally, get back to doing business and to form these ecosystems that are so important. And, here we are. And so, firstly, I want to thank everybody and their families for putting up with this, to get everybody here together so that we could do this today, and to make sure that we continue the tradition of building the cannabis ecosystem was just critical at this time. And so I thank all the panelists, all the presenters, and I really appreciate everybody for their energy today. And I thank everybody for coming together to help benefit the cannabis industry. And so, later in the show, we're going to have on 10 really talented companies. And these companies need working capital in order to expand. And our job is to get it for them. So, Michael, how we doing here? Bear with me 1 second. I just want to make sure we're on here. So it'll be our first Zoom presentation. So you might notice there'll be some adjustments for us as we get used to it. But as the show wears on, we will wow you with 10 amazing companies. We have 11 Biomics, CB Therapeutics, ZAM Grinders, Cannected, Meristematic, Flower Co., Murmmr, Incredibuds, Daily Bonfire, and Herron Family Farms. Those will be our 10 companies. I think all 10 companies are super investment opportunities, and that people ought to look very closely at them. So, let me introduce myself. We're gonna get right into it now. My name's Evan Horowitz. I founded WeedClub with Michael Landau in 2014 to help solve the cannabis networking problem. There was an issue with people being siloed and not having access to each other. Fast forward to today with the coronavirus, and here we are siloed again. We're at home, we're not together, but we are together here now at the At 420 pitch. So if you saw this on the Forbes article that David Carpenter published last night, welcome. we're glad to meet you. WeedClub's been like a boutique thing that has been growing steadily over time, and we want to work with you to help you either get into the cannabis business, grow your cannabis business, and make those valuable connections. WeedClub.com is a networking community. We solve problems through connecting you with people that can help solve your problem. And so today we have 8 amazing panelists that are all business experts, VCs, operators. They have tons of business experience. They've done huge things and they're here to help the startups. And so our panel, I'm gonna run through the panel and then we're gonna get right into these pitches after a brief word from our cause of the show. Our cause today is Operation Evac, a critical cause that Ryan Miller and Alexander can tell us about during the show today. Operation Evac is there to help veterans adjust to their life outside of the military or to cope with PTSD and other challenges that, you know, we're all facing challenges, and cannabis can be very helpful. So our panel today, we have Leslie Katz. Leslie is an amazing attorney. She's absolutely a superstar when it comes to networking. She understands blockchain, cannabis in her practice. She's been instrumental in many different public interest movements. And so Leslie will be on the panel today and she'll be asking questions. Also on the panel, we have Nurit Raphael from Own a Life. Nurit, I've been lucky to sort of just observe and watch her grow her business there in Marin. She's got one of the most vibrant delivery businesses on the face of the planet. And she got a very hard to get license, which took a great deal of persistence. I think we could probably do a whole show on the process of starting that company and getting to where she is. So welcome, Nurit Raphael. Luna Stower joins us today. So Luna is also another rock star veteran of the industry. She's one of the reasons that the industry is here. Hey, Luna. So Luna has lunastower.com. She's an experienced consultant and has an incredible vision for best practices and what ethics ought to look like in this business. And if Luna gets on your case, that's because you did something wrong.
You bet your ass, Evan.
Okay, so, but you can reach Luna at lunastower.com. Also on the panel today, we have Nancy Roberts. I think Nancy's probably handled like billions of dollars of e-commerce in her days as a master marketer. And she's also an investor and comes to us with a great deal of business chops. So welcome, Nancy Roberts. And we should have Sandra Miller from Runway in the chat here. And so Runway is where WeedClub is based. We were founded at Runway in the Twitter building. We would be there today. We love our Runway community. All the best connections we get are through Runway and because of Runway. And we really appreciate the support that we get at Runway. And we'll be back at Runway when the problem has subsided and it's safe for us to all be together again. We will. Also on the panel, we have Debra Chan. Debra Chan is has been for many years, she's been a realtor and financial expert that has relationships to get FDIC insured banking, loans, equipment loans, and other institutional connections that are hard to get. And so Deborah's company is called Athena Investments. And thank you for joining us, Debra Chan. Also on the panel, thank you. Also on the panel, we have Mike McCormick from Great Point Venture Partners. He's a VC and visionary with decks and presentations. And you know, he's been there for the WeedClub community. He's been on the panel scoring and asking questions during the @420 pitch since we started. And Mike is also another person that believes in best practices. And so our final panelist today is Alex Kwon. Alex started Humboldt Consulting Group and is a visionary investor and operator. And he's been very generous with his time as far as chopping up his time in order to help Weed Club members throughout the years, because he's got a pretty large operation in Washington. He's got another business he's operating in Los Angeles. He's got an investment portfolio. He's a busy man, but he understands cannabis. And so I just want to thank everybody for giving us your time today. I want to thank your families for sacrificing your time at this critical time. And I just want to say to everybody out there, look, if you ever wanted to start a cannabis business, you see right now that this is the time to start the business. The world has labeled cannabis as an essential, and it really is an essential. It's a medicine, and it's a thing that does bring us together. And so without further ado, I'd like to talk a little bit about Operation Evac, if we could cue up Ryan Miller. And
Hello.
so, hey, Ryan, how are you?
Doing fantastic, Evan. Thank you so much for inviting us to be here.
It's our pleasure and privilege. And if you could just tell people about Operation Evac and why you guys got started.
Thank you. We launched at Harborside Health Center in about 2014. And the intention is to provide safe spaces for veterans to share stories, share plant medicine, and then we also share a guided meditation that's delivered by Jane Leonard, a fantastic practitioner in our community. We've redistributed hundreds of pounds of cannabis products for absolutely free, totally non-commercial, in alliance with the Compassion idea that we have here in California of redistributing cannabis products to vulnerable communities. And the cannabis industry in California has been tremendously generous. And the interesting part is that the majority of our cannabis donations have come from the underground market. They've also come from the licensed market. However, they have to come anonymously because there hasn't been a pathway to complaints. Now with SB 34 being implemented, we have a compliant pathway to compassionate giving. So our primary needs are philanthropically donated cannabis products, philanthropically donated money, and assistance in helping create awareness that generates both of those other two priorities. And so I just want to invite you all to consider that the United States of America is the most militaristic country on the planet. And if each of you are not including veterans in your corporate social responsibility intentions, then you're invited to do so. And Operation Evac strives to be that most authentic pathway.
So give people like an example of how Operation Evac works. What do you guys do to bring the community together? And how will you adjust in these new times?
That's a great question. So we currently meet 12 times a month, 2 in San Francisco, 1 in Oakland, 1 in Berkeley, and 1 in Sacramento. Our practice is a 90-minute session where the first hour we sit in circle and share stories. We practice forming positive narratives about our experiences and avoid the veteran as victim mentality. And then for 10 minutes, I'll distribute complementary cannabis products and then educate about the safe consumption of those products, because the affordability of cannabis is a primary concern for veterans, often on fixed incomes, absent VA coverage. And then the last part of our session is a 20-minute guided meditation. So in the first part of the class, we'll sometimes laugh, sometimes cry, and then the last part of the class will sometimes snore. And then we've adapted to COVID-19 by offering our platform on Zoom. And so it's been great to sort of provide continuity for our community that is really saving lives. And we couldn't do it without your support. So thank you, Evan.
Our pleasure. How can people get a hold of you? If a veteran is out there right now and wants to contact you, how do they reach you?
Absolutely. Ryan at opevac.org is my personal email. Our website is opevac.org. My phone number is 510-415-2593. I'm always here 1,000%. please liberally redistribute my contact information to any veteran, to anybody that could benefit from a supportive ear. You have my consent.
Thank you very much, Ryan. And I hope you'll stick around for the whole show.
Thank you so much for inviting me to be here.
All right, so everybody, that's Operation Evac. Thank you very much. Support your veterans. And if you have a cause that aligns with WeedClub and cannabis, we'd love to share your cause on WeedClub and in our events. And so thank you very much, Ryan. All right, so very good. We definitely appreciate veterans and everything you do for us. So, so next up, we're gonna get into the pitches, right? That's what everybody's here for. We've got some investment opportunities. Today is your day. If you're an investor, you've got literally, it's like, I'll take that one, I'll take that one, I'll take that one. Maybe consider doing a fund and biting off a piece of all 10 companies. That's how I feel about it. So let's get into it. So, you know, today our first presentation is going to be from Dr. Siv Watkins. Only her mom calls her doctor, but I don't know what it is. I was, you know, if you're a doctor, you're a doctor. So Siv and I met with Alan Young, who's one of my inspirations, and we were at Indie Bio, and I was in the laboratory with Siv, and she was showing me how she remediates powdery mildew and other issues with plants. And I was fascinated, and I think it's a very scalable business. And so if technically we're ready to go with the first presentation, I would like to loop in Siv Watkins from 11 Biomics.
Hey everybody, what's up? My name is Siv Watkins. I'm the CSO of 11 Biomics, and our goal is to provide alternatives to synthetic, generic pesticides in the cannabis industry. Integrated pest management is obviously a huge issue in our industry, not least because of things like regulations around pesticide residues on product. But from a biological perspective, the products that are available to treat pests don't work very well. It's getting very hard to treat things like powdery mildew, bud rot, insects because of the very nature of these products. So by synthetic and generic, what I mean is any product that's designed to be put in a bottle and stuck on a shelf somewhere that you can just go into and apply indiscriminately to tomatoes, cannabis. So this includes chemical products as well as biological products. What 11 has done is designed a strategy to treat a range of diseases on cannabis, including powdery mildew, using a tailored non-synthetic microbial supplement sourced from the cannabis itself. So this is what it looks like in real time. On the left, you can see a sick leaf infected with powdery mildew. 12 hours later, it's cured. How do we do this? Plants all have their own microbiome, and by microbiome, I mean all the bacteria, fungi, archaea associated with the roots of the plant, the growth substrate, the bubble of air around the plant, epiphytes, endophytes, any of the guys hanging out with the plant compromise the microbiome. And the microbiome is really important in lots of aspects of the plant's life, including growth promotion, and more specifically, protection against disease for that plant. Much of the microbiome is unique to the plant though, so switchgrass is going to look different from hemp. And one cannabis cultivar might have a very varied microbiome compared to another cannabis cultivar. Each plant has an innate capacity to recruit helpful microbes to fight disease, but because each microbiome is variable, the microbes that are most helpful are variable too. And what we do is interrogate the microbiome of cannabis plants. We find the supportive microbes, and then we give them back to the plant at therapeutic levels. This is not generic. It's completely tailored to the physiology of the plant, the ecological niche of the plant, which means it's very effective. And it also doesn't contribute to resistance. It's going to keep working. We have medium scale proof of concept in place. These are data from about 40 plants that you can see. On the x-axis, we have time. On the y-axis, we have rates of infection. And all of these plants are a strain called Jabberwocky, which is highly susceptible to powdery mildew. The orange group were plants that we treated. And the blue group was a control group that wasn't treated with anything to prevent powdery mildew. So you can see on day 23, these plants were so badly infected, we had to make a decision about whether or not to just stop the experiment and throw them out. Instead, we gave them the same supplement that we'd given to the orange group, and you can see that pretty quickly rates of infection dropped down to almost negligible. At the moment, we're working with the Proving Ground, which is a large grow in San Diego. They operate around 6,000 to 7,000 plants at any given time. And we're working up a system with them whereby we inoculate their clones with the supplement we designed for them, essentially vaccinating their plants against any type of disease development later on in their life. A lot of this is experimental, but we are invoicing them month to month, and that's representative of how we're going to charge customers when we make this available to everybody. On a month-to-month basis, we provide the supplement that we specifically designed for them. We have a provisional patent in place for this system, and we're currently seeking angel investors. So if you're interested, please reach out to myself or my CEO, Alan, and we'll look forward to chatting with you. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you for the presentation, Siv. And so this will be the first time. So I see we have a hand up from Nurit. And let me find her question.
Oh, do I have to type it in?
Oh, there you go. Nope. Go for it, Nurit.
I guess my one question is, and I come from a distillery background, not cultivation, but did you try to see if this would get in a way of compliance for testing? Because I know that testing is one of the hardest things to get past. So just wondering if that was something you guys did a data on.
You cut out halfway through, but sorry. So I'm assuming your question is about microbial testing, product testing, like state lab testing. Yeah, we've run a bunch of trials in California and New Mexico, whereby we've sent the experimental product off afterwards to the state lab, got it tested, passed, and then this is part of the trial with the Proving Ground as well, as we have a whole bunch of experimental plants to the side of the regular grow, and at the end of everything, we're going to harvest it, send it off to the state to test and pass.
Very cool. Yeah, I think that's an amazing product to have out there. I know that there's a lot of sick plants out there, so you're taking care of them.
Trying to.
Next up, we have a question from Sandra Miller of Runway.
Hi.
Hi.
Great job on the presentation, Siv. My question had to do with what traction, can you talk a little bit more about the traction you have to date, if any, with customers? What are they saying? What conversations? What are their objections when you're talking to people?
Yeah, I'm really happy that you asked that question. When we were at Indie Bio, we were in California for 6 months, and aside from doing the science, I spent all of my time going and visiting growers and talking to them about this stuff. Because that's how the cannabis industry works, right? You know, I could just be some person chucking another bottle on the shelf and it's like, you know, sure, another one. So for the most part, people initially were like, yeah, whatever. Another cure for powdery mildew, sure, sounds good. And then eventually we started demonstrating to people on single leaves and spot treatments that it actually worked. And now we have a really nice group of folks in California who are very, very supportive, which is how we've ended up working with the Proving Ground. We're so lucky that they're engaging with us on this. And they have a really good reputation in San Diego as well for producing fire weed. And similarly, I live in New Mexico. This is where we brought the business back after Indie Bio. It's really important for us to help the growers in New Mexico because this is our home. And again, they've been incredibly generous in allowing us to use experimental plants, I think, not just out of the goodness of their heart, but because they're curious about whether or not this actually works. So we have a lot of people who are lined up who want to engage with this and who want to pay money for this. But we're still at the point where I want to nail this perfectly. I also want to make sure that we can use this idea of inoculating clones as opposed to treating plants when they've developed a disease. The idea here is to get out in front of the problem, to vaccinate the babies so that you never end up with an issue. And if you're a medium-sized grower, in New Mexico, we're all medium-sized growers. The maximum plant count is 1,200 at the moment. So you never want to have to wake up in the morning and worry that you're going to lose plants because of powdery mildew. That's where we want to get to with this.
So there's actually an interesting question from the audience. Thank you, attendees. Craig asks if this works for outdoors.
Yeah, we've actually hung out with a couple of folks. One in particular producing cannabis from a really beautiful outdoor grow in Humboldt, who got in touch with us because previously they'd never had an issue with powdery mildew because regenerative grows, large spaces, and recycling soil and all this kind of thing. That's how you want to do it. And they noticed within the last couple of years that they're beginning to see powdery mildew and other moldy things that are very, very resistant to treatment. So we have these guys, these kind of contacts who are keeping us on track with what the general biology and ecology of pests in cannabis are. So we've trialed this outdoors, indoor greenhouses, hydroponic. We haven't hit aeroponic yet. So if anybody can link me up with somebody who's growing aeroponically who'd like to give this a try, let me know. But yeah, this is a pretty broad range.
Cool. We have two more questions, and the next one is from Leslie Katz.
A great presentation. Thank you. Very mundane questions. You've hit a couple of the others that I had, but what roughly is the cost to the customers? And then specifically, what are you looking to raise and how will you apply those funds?
Yeah, that's part of the reason why we're so happy that we're working with a larger grower, because it's one thing to demonstrate this works in the lab. It's another thing to fiddle around with 20 to 40 plants. But now, you know, we're talking about big boy application of actual working grows that are highly automated, already have their IPM schemes down pat. So part of the process with the proving ground is, first of all, figuring out, can we inoculate the clones? Because if you're inoculating clones, you're using maybe 10 mils of a product versus spraying adult plants where you're talking about liters and liters and liters of production. So obviously, if that's the case, it's going to be a lot more expensive. If we can inoculate clones, this is going to be considerably cheaper than paying for the pesticides that the customers are using at the moment. So that's one of the things that we're nailing down at the moment. But our numbers suggest that it's going to be cheaper than what people are using at the moment. It's going to be cheaper than the chemicals, than the biologicals, than the sulfur, than the hydrogen peroxide, all of that stuff. In terms of raising money, at the moment, because we are still very much nailing down our research and development, we're looking for angel investors as opposed to a larger round. I anticipate that we're going to be ready to go to VCs to raise around 3 million by the end of this year. But now we're looking for angel investors with a minimum amount of around $10,000.
Great. So last question. Oh, we're going to have to, this has to be the last question because it's just, we're going to go forever. Well, we could, because it's such a fascinating topic, and we'll definitely have you back, Siv. So Alex, let's cut to Alex Kwon here and see Alex's question. If it's quick, we can get to one more.
You know, I'm not going to ask a quick question. I have two-part. I have a lot of knowledge in this space. Number one, just from a financial perspective, a great presentation, by the way. Obviously, doing pest management is an incredible part of just agriculture and cannabis in general. So number one, obviously, I think the last question just came in recently, but yeah, what are the terms, right? Like, so if you're an angel and you have this roadmap to get to VC, that's kind of an interesting kind of moving target, it sounds like, but is it a convertible note? Is it, how are you thinking about monetizing? You say 10K is a minimum. So the first part question is just kind of an investment layup, really, is like, what are the terms at this round? And then my other question is definitely far more technical when it comes into the space of biologicals in the plant, because integrated pest management is an incredibly important thing in the plant. And how is it different from when you're running living compost, compost teas, and that type of methodology that goes into understanding the rhizosphere, working through the soil? Because you kind of mentioned a lot of that stuff. And just so that I don't get too into the weeds about this, you know, pun intended, is you know, when you start talking about the biodiversity of the plant, you have all these other ways of being able to inoculate the plant and do that. If you're talking about treating something from a clone and it's going to be able to mitigate PM all the way through its life cycle, that would be extraordinary if you were to do that, because there are so many other factors that come into indoor grows, greenhouse, outdoor grows, that have a lot of other variables as there is in farming, to be able to control, because sometimes it's airflow, sometimes how clean you keep a place, how crowded your plants are. These are all things that attribute for a pathogen to come in. So are you saying that that's going to work with all of those aspects? And how is it different from any of the biological ways? Because those are two different styles of growing, from an organic methodology and living compost and being identifying of the microorganisms in the plant, compared to a synthetic method thereof of a hybrid.
Yeah. I feel like you and I are probably going to need to have a much longer conversation to cover all of this. But in terms of, you mentioned compost teas. Basically, what I do, the easiest way of describing it is I make really, really high-tech compost teas, essentially. Secondly, in relation to what you're talking about all the variables that go into a grow, all of these factors, yeah, totally. And that's why it's so important that this is tailored. This is why it's so important that I go feet on the soil in a grow, taking into account all of the parameters, interrogate the microbiomes of their plants, the different cultivars of the plants, and work up a very specific solution for that environment. For example, one of the growers that I've worked with in California has a constant humidity between day. That's an issue, right? So you got to accommodate for that too.
So it's a curated solution, and realistically, how that would correlate to a monetizing model would be a subscription service, is what you're saying.
You've nailed it, yeah. And in regards to your first question, the guy to talk to about that is Alan Young, who's our CEO, but I can tell you it's a convertible note and everything is very negotiable at the moment.
Okay, thank you.
Of course.
Thank you very much. So this is the part where we'll score each pitch. And so the panelists will be able to give a numerical score from 1 to 5, and a 5 being the best. And so there'll be 8. We're looking for 8 scores here if we can get everybody. So what we're going to do is we're going to unmute you, all of you, and then I'll ask each of you for your score, and I'll run down pretty much in the same order we introduced you. So everybody I'll give you 5 seconds to think about your score for 11 Biomics, Civ Watkins, and let's start with Leslie Katz.
Can we get half numbers as well, or do they have to be whole numbers?
Whole numbers.
5.
Wow.
Awesome start. So we got a 5 from Leslie Katz. Nurit Raphael from Own a Life, your score.
A 4.
Awesome. Luna Stower, your score for 11 Biomics.
I would give him a 4.
Thank you. And Nancy Roberts.
I'll say 4.
Thank you. Sandra Miller.
4.
Very good. Debra Chan.
I give it a 4.
Thank you. Mike McCormick.
4 it is.
And Mr. Alex Kwon.
This always happens. 3.
Thank you. Alex Kwon. So we have an Alex Kwon and an Alex Kwon. We have a lot of Alexes, but when you've tallied that score, if you could pop that over to us, we'll get that. And then next up is going to be CB Therapeutics. So also Civ, there were a whole bunch of questions for you in the chat. So if you can enter the Zoom chat, and there's just a lot of questions there for you. People are fascinated with what you're doing. So we have a 32 for 11 biomics, a great start. Congratulations, Civ. Stick around. Let's see where that you can get a trophy with the 32. So thank you very much. I would say, like, give it up for 11 biomics and have everyone cheer, you know, and we would just go crazy. And so thank you very much. That was the first virtual pitch in At 420 pitch history. What a start. You know, we're very privileged. We have a great panel, as you could tell already. We have great presenters. And I'm really excited about our next presenter. It's mind-boggling what can happen now with science, right? So our next presenter is called CB Therapeutics. And their founder, his name is Sher Ali Butt. And he's got a company with some just incredible IP and capabilities that crosses over not just into cannabinoid research, but into all kinds of psychedelic research. So Michael and Alex here at WeedClub, if you guys are ready to queue up, here we go. Here's CB Therapeutics.
Just really quick, before you guys get started, just to let you guys know, the Q&A for the last presentation, if you look up at the top of your screen, the Q&A, there are questions being asked. So just wanted to remind folks about that prompt. Because normally in Zoom I've only ever seen chat, but I just noticed the Q&A top right now. So just bringing your attention to that. Sorry, go ahead, C.
Thank you.
Therapeutics. CB Therapeutics is a biotech company with the largest portfolio of natural molecules reverse engineered into yeast, such as cannabinoids like CBD and THC, and tryptamines such as psilocybin and basis-tein. We're one of the first companies to commercialize large-scale production of cannabinoids in yeast, and the first one in the world to develop and file IP in the tryptamine and other spaces. The problem of traditional agriculture for production of these compounds is evident when you compare variables in both. Unlike agriculture, we produce pure compounds with precise dosages, without any contaminants such as heavy metals or pesticides. Climate change, soil quality, and daylight do not impact our production process in any way. Lastly, a biotech production footprint of 3,000 square feet can produce more than 3 acres of greenhouse space, thereby saving lots of time and money. Here's a brief overview of what our production process looks like. We start with seeding our large bioreactors with yeast and sugar, allow the fermentation to run for 72 hours, and then harvest the cannabinoids from the media the yeast are living in. Traditional biotech companies working on yeast-based cannabinoids have to break open the yeast cells for extraction, but our proprietary process, patent pending, allows for easier extraction as our yeast automatically excrete the cannabinoids after production into the media. After extraction, we are ready to crystallize the compounds for formulation. We have achieved cannabinoid production in 2018 and since have been scaling up and refining our technologies. We're one of the few biotechs who have successfully scaled up to a 400-liter bioreactor and currently producing many types of cannabinoids in our facility on a small scale. My previous work experience includes working as a lab director of Steep Hill, project manager at Novartis, where I helped bring 2 different drugs to the market with the FDA. And I also co-founded another cannabis testing lab, CB Labs, which is doing quite well. The other co-founder, Dr. Vogan, is a PhD in bioengineering, UC Berkeley, and previously a researcher at UCSF. We have a world-class team of biotechnology experts, currently 7 PhDs and many other research associates. Contaminant-free cannabinoids are expensive to source, especially the rare cannabinoids that are gaining lots of interest. We'll be selling our cannabinoids B2B to many companies that are waiting for our commercial launch. We're currently in the process of converting our LOIs into purchase orders with various companies we have in discussion with. And we'll start selling 4 cannabinoid isolates wholesale to customers beginning Q3 2020. We expect to sell 75% CBD and the other 25% as other rare cannabinoids. On the tryptamine side, we're able to deliver 20 to 100x cheaper molecules with the highest purity, along with the ability to generate patentable analogs, thereby garnering lots of interest from top research institutions. We expect to sign a collaboration agreement with Cleveland Clinic very soon regarding using our molecules for clinical trials for depression, PTSD, and addiction disorders. For tryptamines, the strategy is long-term. We will be the GW Pharma of psychedelics, as we have many other first molecules that are developed in yeast and then collaborate with Cleveland Clinic on these trials. One can only imagine the potential of FDA-approved therapies addressing such big markets. Regarding exits, we expect either acquisition from other companies in the food, cosmetics, cannabis, or pharma spaces, or IPO. Psychedelic companies are doing this with lots of success, as the story for using public money for clinical trials at Cleveland Clinic to cure many of society's leading healthcare issues is very compelling. And we're the only company leading both the cannabinoids and psychedelic spaces. We're looking to raise $12 million to complete scale-up of our technology and deliver on purchase orders Q3 2020. Build additional manufacturing capability at our Carlsbad facility to achieve over 20,000 kilograms of pure compounds production capacity by next year, and cover our SGA during this time. Help us make the world a better place, one molecule at a time. Thank you.
Awesome.
Awesome.
That's a share from CB Therapeutics. And so we're going to open it up to questions now from the panelists. So panel, if you could find your raise hand, and we'll start taking some questions in a moment. And as we are going to continue to bring in questions. So we'll start here with Mike McCormick with a question here for Cher at CB Therapeutics.
Cool. Yeah, it's super interesting. I've looked at a few companies kind of doing this like biosynthetic cannabinoid production, and sometimes have trouble telling the difference between them in terms of the actual process. Aside from being broader than just cannabinoids, I know you talked about other things. What's the core differentiator here? Like what makes you more efficient or different from the maybe handful of other groups working on the same thing?
Yeah, thank you for the feedback. First of all, I think one of the first things that makes us different is the team that we've assembled. Arguably, anybody else would probably say the same thing. On the technology side, we have 1 patent granted. We have 7 others that are pending, which are all on fast track. We've looked at a lot of IP that comes from all the other groups, but we feel that what we have created is definitely differentiated in terms of the actual innovation. So, for example, one of the innovations that we've done is we've been able to increase the yield more so than any other group that I'm aware of. We already have 13 different cannabinoids, 7 different terpenes, and 7 or 8 different tryptamines that we're already producing with yeast. I don't know of any other group that uses synthetic biology that is able to make these number of compounds. Third, we actually have our own 7,000 square foot facility in Carlsbad, which we bought in an auction from another biotech company that went out of business. So we already have a space that's set up with 400-liter bioreactors with purification and extraction equipment, something that's also very unique to what we have other than any other biotech company.
And does $12 million get you enough capital to scale to mass production, or do you need more after that?
Absolutely. So with the $12 million, not only, so right now, just to give a background, right now we're making a couple hundred grams a week with the scale that we're working at. With this money, we're able to install multiple bioreactors, expand the manufacturing side of our facility, pay for SG&A, continue our R&D to increase the expression of the yeast, and able to go into many different new compounds as well. So definitely that will be the last round that we will be looking for VCs or investors.
Thanks.
Thank you.
A question from the Q&A from Ted is, do these microbial products need to be registered? Oh, is that for the last pitch? Sorry. How about here's the next question. Libride has a patent. This is from an anonymous one. They're asking you a hard question here, so they're anonymous.
I think it's an easy question, but please go ahead.
Sure. They ask, considering Libride has a patent, and others are doing something similar, what makes yours different?
Honestly, that's probably the best question I've had in a while. So whoever it is, thank you so much for that. Libride has a patent. They were one of the first companies, or in the US, they were the first company to get a patent to produce CBD. However, and THC, cannabinoids, and yeast. However, their yield is super low. And what I mean by super low is they're on the, they're getting somewhere around 13 to 15 milligrams per liter. That process itself is not scalable the way that it is. They need a lot more innovation to get to a point where they'll even be able to sell product or make it at scale to be able to compete with plant growers. So for example, when we're looking at CBD production, we're looking at roughly $4,000 a kilogram, average kilogram prices of CBD isolate. For somebody to get to that price level, they would need to have 20 to 100x fold increase to get to that point. How IP is differentiated in biotech? Typically, when you have, typically what you're patenting in biotech, you're patenting the process itself. Secondly, you're looking at enzymes. We've looked at all the enzymes that people use. When you're looking at patenting specific enzymes, what the patent office looks at is it looks at the sequence of the enzyme or what nucleic acids, et cetera, make up that specific enzyme. If your invention or whatever enzyme that I have, for example, which is different from what Liberty has, which is different from what other people have, if it's more than 90% different by sequence, it's technically considered a brand new innovation. The way that I look at patents is it's not about who can get a patent on this. It's about being able to be commercially viable. Ultimately, nobody really cares how you're making it or how cool the science is. People care about whether it makes economic sense. And that's what it's really all about. Like, the patent looks good from a perspective of an investor. That's what investors like. But ultimately, what it comes down to, again, is how viable the technology is in terms of how high the yield is, how much CBD or other cannabinoids that you can make. And I think we are definitely one of the leading groups, if not the leading group in this section.
I think we have a question from Debra Chan that I wanted to loop in Debra next. Debra, if you're ready. Let me try and unmute you.
Get over what period of time?
Let's ask the question.
Yeah, so share what percentage of the market do you plan to get over and what period of time?
We haven't, I think, going for a percentage of the market is maybe something of too ambitious for a startup to right out of the gate come out and, give projections. We believe in kind of, realistic projections in some way. I think the way that we're approaching this is we have a couple different companies that we've talked to. We have, close to 60 something million in LOIs from a lot of these companies. Some of them are public Canadian companies. Some of them are in the US. That happened right after we went through Y Combinator. So we were in Y Combinator in S 2018 batch. Since then, what we've done is we followed up with a lot of these potential customers, and I believe we're a week away from signing our first purchase order from the United Kingdom. And there were two other groups that we were talking to a couple months back, about a month back, but unfortunately, COVID-19 has sort of affected businesses in that way, so we're giving that a little bit of time. But that's how we want to build it. Is we want to go back to these companies and we want to follow with hey, here's the LOI. If you convert now, we can give you a certain discount. But unfortunately, I wouldn't be able to answer the percentage market thing. I think especially with cannabis, if you're looking at other markets where there's a lot of data available, it's a different situation. But with cannabis, I think the markets are so fragmented that it's hard to actually estimate. There's a lot of regulatory barriers from one state to another, country to country. So, it's a little tricky to be able to come up with that at the moment.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good question. There's lots of questions. So, presenters, definitely after your presentation, hop over into that chat room because you have over 110 people in there and they're just firing away with questions. So we can fit in one more question here for sure, maybe two, depending on the length of this one. For the next one, let's loop in Alex Kwon.
So some of the questions I think were semi-answered by that Mike asked, and then the Liberté. It's interesting, Evan. Liberté, I think I saw a deck from them, or they pitched before. They pitched before, so that rang a bell. But some other competitors in the space, like I know Kronos made a deal with Ginkgo, who was doing synthetic cannabinoids, and they have a lot of different positions in there too. So I'm sure, like my question is, you touched on something about production, the cost, right? I'm very curious of what you're saying. What is the cost that you're saying that is so much more effective from at least the cannabinoid side, like what you're targeting, like let's say per kilogram for yourself. That's one part of it, because I'm curious to see the difference between that and some of the investments that I know and seeing that are like at massive scale for a specific cannabinoid, and it's a lot cheaper than people think it is. So I'm just curious about that divergence there of where you're targeting and what actual scale looks like to you.
Oh, thank you for the question. So we are, after raising the Series A and expanding our manufacturing capabilities, we're looking at a cost of $590 per kilogram of 99% pure isolate. It doesn't matter to the yeast whether you're making CBD, THC, CBG, THCV, or CBC. So typically when you have rare cannabinoids, you have anywhere for THC or CBD, you have anywhere between 5 to 25% cannabinoids like THC or CBD. But with some of these rare ones, it's 0.1, 0.01%. For us, another advantage of using the yeast platform is you are able to make all these cannabinoids for the same base price. So that's roughly $590 a kilogram that we're projecting.
Okay, that makes sense because there's a different cost to go into like other novel cannabinoids, right? But CBD is in certain places is lower than 500 kilos. So that's why I wanted to understand that because that's really that's where the value kind of rises there. That's the other. Yeah, basically that's it. I was just curious about the cost, and that makes sense that you're trying to tackle all the parts because another part of the question was going to be about the difference between raw ingredients because this is kind of a pharma play and formulation play. Sure. Rather than saying, hey, I'm going to go towards full spectrum and different types of abilities with other minor cannabinoids involved, that it's going to create a very different effect in effect-based system, right?
Thank you. And if I may add real quickly to that is, we have the ability to make full spectrum, solutions as well. So for example, if somebody's looking for CBD that has 7 or 8 other cannabinoids, we can formulate that. Typically, the way that we look at it is if you have a strain of cannabis, let's say Gorilla Glue or whatever it may be, what we can do is we can run that strain on a mass spec and we can find out the exact concentration of each of the different cannabinoids, each of the different terpenes. And once our yeast makes the different types of molecules, we can regroup all of them into one formulation that would be sort of the biosynthetic version of Gorilla Glue. I mean, it's not going to be perfect because obviously there's hundreds of other molecules in the play, but we can make something that's coming close to that. And then the last thing I wanted to just touch up, Alex, is you're right. In terms of the cost, there's a big difference. So for example, it's CBD wholesale you can get for roughly, $3,000 to $5,000 a kilogram. When we did a tally for wholesales of other cannabinoids. So for example, CBG is about $12,000 a kilogram. CBC is $36,000 a kilogram. THC is for $50,000. And the advantage
that is at this moment in time, though. I just want to. CBD used to be $10K a kilo, and you can get that for $1,000 or less if you have the right connections, or maybe even more or less. Right. So that's just when the commercialization and the commoditization of raw cannabinoids happens, that would be a very different supply chain question, right? That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
Awesome. All right. In the interest of time, Cher, definitely hit that chat. You got a bunch more questions, but I want to turn it over to the panelists now, so we could take a tally on the score. So we'll, obviously, CB Therapeutics is just a very fascinating business, and it's new. It's there's not a lot of businesses like it. There sounded like a lot of differentiation to me. So I know there's more questions from the panel, so hopefully it doesn't interfere with the score. But we'll start the same process again of working our way down the panel to take some scores. So we're going to unmute all, and then we'll start with Leslie Katz.
4.
Thank you. And Nurit from Own a Life.
I'm going to go with a 5.
Thank you. Luna Stower.
Oh, I definitely got 5 on it.
Awesome. Next up is Nancy Roberts.
5.
Awesome. Next up would be Sandra Miller from Runway.
So normally this would be a 5, but the big thing that was missing was you didn't talk about patience, and this is about patience. And so I think I really want to encourage you. I know you didn't have tons of time, but
sure.
So I'm going to give this a 4.
Okay. Debra Chan.
5.
And Mike McCormick.
4.
Was that a 4, Mike?
4, yeah.
Thank you. Alex Kwon.
This is a hard one. It's like the science part of it. I want to give it 3, but I'm going to give it 4.
4 from Alex Kwon. So Alex Quinn, if you don't mind tallying those up for us. and we'll see what that adds up to. And then next up is going to be ZAM Grinders here following CB.
And just one last thing, sorry, Evan. If anybody wants to reach me, please email me anytime. My email is SHER, S-H-E-R, @cbthera.com. It's SHER @cbthera.com. Thank you again. Thank you, Evan. Thank you, everybody.
You're welcome. Great pitch, great company, and we're looking forward to seeing everything that you accomplish as you continue down this line.
Thank you so much.
And the score is tallied up to a 36. So we got 36 there for CB Therapeutics. Great job. Thank you very much. Great work. All right. So, I mean, what you see here at the At 420 pitch by WeedClub is that we pick diverse companies from diverse founders. We have a diverse panel. It makes it interesting. The questions are fantastic. Keep those coming. And, you know, I'm really excited about our next presenter. And I know I've said I'm excited about all the presenters, and I really genuinely am. But Zach from ZAM Grinders and I have been talking now for several months. And Zach is humble, and he's hungry, and he's determined, and he's persistent, and he's patient. And I really enjoy getting to know Zach. And he's got one of the most unique products in his space. And for a very low entry price or investment, for a value investment, investors have a great deal of upside, I believe, with ZAM Grinder, because I think you'll see why in the pitch, I hope. And so let's cue up the ZAM Grinder pitch, and here we go. So this is Zach McCready.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Zachary McCready, and I'm the founder of ZAM Grinders. ZAM Grinders is an innovative new line of cannabis grinders designed for the modern cannabis consumer. So what's wrong with grinders? Well, they're bulky and they're single-minded. If you're a modern cannabis consumer, that means you're often on the go, and that means you like to choose among the many different devices and forms of cannabis available, right? But grinders are really only designed to grind and carry flower. Not everyone is only smoking flower at home and through a bong, right? So a grinder needs to have 4 characteristics to really appeal to the active cannabis consumers of today. It needs to be able to grind effectively, it needs to be portable, it needs to have the ability to store different materials, and it needs to facilitate the loading and unloading of different devices. Otherwise, or what you see today, is generally people have a little pack to carry everything in, and it sort of defeats the whole point of portability. So how did I solve this? How did I make grinders more portable, more useful? Well, with 2 patent pending improvements. The first and most important improvement is that I redesigned the center magnetic post found in all grinders into a ring shape. This allows you to place cannabis anywhere in the chamber without any worry of jamming. This also allows a ZAM grinder to be thinner, more portable, and more efficient than any other grinder on the market. The second improvement is the removable, airtight, watertight Teflon lining and debowler. This lining allows users to empty and pack different cannabis devices while also being safe for the long-term storage of different materials, like concentrates. I am the solo founder of ZAM Grinders. I dropped out of college to build a website earning through Amazon's affiliate program, which did pretty well. I then used the income from that to start a business where I designed and imported giant 4-foot and 5-foot glass bongs. That ultimately didn't work out, but I used the experience from that to start ZAM Grinders. I do have a good bit of traction. I received my first shipment of inventory in October of 2019, and I then gave those out to different businesses, online publications, whatnot, and I got great praise. I've got test orders from online retailers and local head shops, as well as pipe dreams, which I'm sure you've all heard of, and I also got great praise from online publications. Forbes is actually writing an article featuring ZAM Grinders, and I believe they are here today to cover the event. From just one post on Reddit, I got over 400 people to an email waiting list. According to a 2013 estimation by HeadQuest magazine, head shops generate nearly $10 billion annually in the United States. I went around to different shops and I asked them, what percentage of your sales are grinder related, and they said 5%. From that, I can estimate that the U.S. cannabis grinder market is worth at least $500 million. So my margins are pretty good at 60%. Because of that, I plan to focus on online e-commerce first and then move into wholesale business to business. I think my margins will get even better once the Chinese tariffs are taken away. and we start purchasing larger units of inventory. I am seeking $100,000 based on a pre-money valuation of $500,000. This will be used mostly just to get things up and going. You know, the utility patent is important, as well as the first shipment of inventory. If you are interested in joining me in creating a national cannabis brand, please let me know. Thank you.
All right, that's Zach McCready's pitch for ZAM Grinder. And I was lucky enough to get a sample. Zach wanted to send one to all the panelists, but you know, who knew we were going to only have a couple days here and things were going to be like this. And, you know, it's just, it's great. So very innovative device. I enjoy using mine, and I appreciate you looping in Forbes, and we really appreciated that Forbes coverage, which we were lucky to get through Zach. That was Zach's connection. So I see we have a hand up. So let's see what the first question is here for Zach. Any hands up from the panel? So Zach, I have a question for you. Okay, we'll skip my question since I get to talk a lot. So the first question we have will be from Leslie Katz.
Can you talk a little bit more? Great presentation, exciting product. You know, your numbers, you know, look, I mean, very robust for investors, but I'm not sure how, you know, realistic they are in terms of marketing. Could you talk about, you know, a bit more what you plan to do with the funds raised, and if just 100,000 will really get you to the next level, or what are your plans, and then what would this round look like?
Can you see me right now? Can everyone see me?
We got you. We see you, Zach.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So marketing wise, that first 100,000, it's really gonna get things going. Like I said, the utility patent obviously is very important. The whole grinder really keys around that. And with that 100,000, I really think that I will be able to get the process going to where the business will be self-sufficient. You asked about marketing. I have some experience with my 4-foot bongs, marketing that I have. So I think I'd be readily able to market that online. And that, of course, is part of the $100,000 that I would be using. You know, marketing is, as a physical product, marketing is going to be very important.
Thank you. Our next question is from Nancy Roberts.
Hi. So you're creating a D2C brand, and the best way a D2C brand to get in front of consumers is to create brand loyalty. So I'm wondering, what are you doing to bring more customers to your website, and what other channels are you using besides website?
Sure. So when I first started developing the ZAM Grinder, I found one key community really that really liked my grinder, and that was the vaporizer community. So I'm really close to them, and I'm working with them when I was developing the grinder to really to test and to make sure my direct-to-consumer relationship was strong, right? Because I'm really depending on them to really let me know what things need to be fixed and what things they don't like. You asked me what other market avenues I would use. Again, my website is the main one, and that is because my margins directly to e-commerce are so good. After that, once I start purchasing more grinders, I do plan to move to wholesale, and that's because my margins would increase. You know, I think one thing I am looking for is a strategic investor. You know, if you can introduce me to a distributor or something like that, that is something that I'm definitely interested in.
Well, with your experience with Amazon and being an Amazon affiliate, have you considered selling through Amazon as a channel?
Absolutely, but they take a decent amount of the grinder, the margins from the grinder. So that is also something that I would probably want to wait until I purchase a larger inventory.
Great. Next up, we have a question from Sandra Miller.
Yeah, so building on Nancy's great questions, I mean, I see this and I think, I mean, I loved hearing about your Reddit posts, and, you know, because to get that kind of reaction is huge validation, huge customer validation. And so when I see something like this, I think crowdfunding. And, you know, to sort of have, you know, as you do that campaign, you know, people will, you know, you sort of have a built-in customer list, and, you know, you have this beautiful design. You're obviously filling a need. One of the things I would have liked, you know, you talked about the problem, but, and I think it's great you're focusing on a patent. You know, your competitive advantage could be how nice your design is in and of itself, but you know, I think it's important to think about, you know, how you're positioned. And if you can talk a little bit in terms of, you know, what do you think is your closest competitor or competitive product, I suppose?
Right. So if you look at the grinder market, there's a whole lot of brands out there. You know, everyone really thinks that they can make another grinder. You know, slap a logo on it, and then, you know, you've got your own brand of grinder. Santa Cruz Shredder is I would say is the leader in the market right now. You know, when I contacted the shops, when I ran around and asked them, you know, what grinders are most often sold, Santa Cruz Shredder is really the grinder that I guess I would be competing against. And yeah, so.
That's great.
Great question. So just to bring in a question here from Doug in the Q&A in the chat, he asks, how much can it hold? My only concern is volume.
Well, sure, but that's a good question, but it's something that I should mention is that this grinder really isn't designed for every single cannabis consumer, right? The cannabis market is a very large, and my grinder is specialized, right? So if you are looking to grind just a whole lot of weed, then honestly, you might want to use a different grinder. I'll be completely honest, mine is designed for portability. That being said, the key thing, a great thing about the patents on my grinder is that they can be included in later versions. So while this grinder is 1.1 inches wide in diameter, you know, the next one will be 1.6 inches wide, and the next after that will be 2.2. So to answer your question directly, about half a gram would fit in. Thank you.
All right, so some great questions. I really appreciate the presentation. Panelists, we're gonna unmute you all. And to mix it up, I'm gonna go backwards this time. That way, if you were getting dependent on Leslie to set the tone here, we're gonna switch it up. So, ZAM Grinder, new innovative grinder, true seed round valuation, single owner, looking for strategic backing. I mean, what an opportunity, what an early stage opportunity. Great job. So for our first score today, let's start with Alex Kwon.
2.
Thank you, Alex. And next up will be Mike McCormick.
3.
Thank you. Debra Chan, Athena Investments.
3.
Thank you. Sandra Miller from Runway.
Hi, 3.
Thank you. And Nancy Roberts.
3.
Thank you. Luna Stower, lunastower.com.
Are we, I love you, Evan. Are we doing halves or no's? Just fullsies or halfsies?
Round numbers to be compassionate to our scorekeepers.
I'm going to say 2.
Thank you, Luna. Nurit, Own a Life.
I'm going to say 2.
Thank you. And Leslie Katz.
3.
Thank you, Leslie. So we'll tally those up. And then thank you, panel, for your scores there. And thank you, Zach. And thank you to the to everybody who's attending in the chats for these great questions. They're awesome. So that gives us a score of 21 for ZAM Grinders. So give it up for ZAM Grinders. Great job.
Woo!
I mean, we would make so much noise if we were at Runway. So we're just trying to get some excitement here. But didn't you just forget for a minute that we were all at home from this coronavirus? I just totally forgot.
Totally.
No, thank you. And so that's probably one of the most important things is just to remember, like, as an industry, as an ecosystem, like we're building a new ecosystem here together. So next up is going to be Nancy from Cannected. I met Nancy several months ago. And, you know, she said to me that Nancy and her partner Yolanda had the best ERP in the industry. She was throwing around some heavy compliments about her software. And she has a name brand pilot partner. And again, this is another seed stage, early opportunity. We love ArcView. Thank you, ArcView, for paving the way for people like us to even be here, and all the other events that are out there, the tech crunches and all the pitch. We need more pitch events, but nobody else is finding these companies at the idea stage the way that we are. And it's because of your referrals. It's because of the Runway community. And so everybody meet Nancy Rivyang from—
Hi, everyone.
And Yolanda.
Yes, where is Yolanda?
Hello, hi everyone.
Hi.
Yolanda, I'm going to mute myself. I'm handing it over to you.
Okay, so let me just share my screen. Share. Hang on. Okay, hi, I'm Nancy, and you've already also met Yolanda, and we're here today to talk about Cannected. One of the reasons why we're here is because we know that indoor farming is full of data, and we wanted to make sense of this data and to help farmers. So whether you're growing lettuce or cannabis, farmers basically need to have a lot of data to make sure that their production is, all their plants are healthy and they'll produce successful yield. So these are some of the things that they have to manage and account for. And I wanted to also introduce you to this guy. His name is Aaron. He manages an indoor cannabis cultivation that's about the size of 50,000 square feet. Now, because Aaron is a cannabis farmer, he actually has more data to manage because of the regulatory system. But this is how Aaron manages his operation. He has to pull spreadsheets from all of these data sources. And on top of that, he still continues to build spreadsheets to track all the other cultivation inputs, like you know, his what nutrients that he puts, or the types of soil, or spraying schedule, or defoliation method. So all of these things, none of these systems actually track, so he has to build them from scratch. Now, this type of data collection is basically inefficient and time consuming. And all of those spreadsheets are actually just raw data. And it really doesn't bring him any valuable insights at all. Unless, of course, he's a spreadsheet guru and he can build models out of his spreadsheets to connect all of the dots. So I am very, very familiar with this type of problems. In my previous life, I was actually managing a digital ad agency, and it's also another heavily data-driven company, industry. And I was really super frustrated with a similar situation where, in order for me to get any visibility of our agency's metrics, or how our clients are doing, their burn rate and their campaign performance, I also had to pull various data from all of these siloed sources. And I had to spend hours also building and modeling spreadsheets to really, really come to have a full picture of the information that I needed. Out of my own frustrations, basically, I decided to create for the agency an ERP platform to help streamline our operation, and also to automate all the data aggregations and the analysis. And so when I started talking to people in the cannabis space, and especially to the cultivators, and realized that they really didn't have any technology to help them manage all of this, you know, internal operations and data, I know I could help them. So that's when I started talking to Yolanda, my co-founder and our CTO now. And then I decided to pull Andy and Clark, who used to be working for me at the agency. And together we built Cannected. So what is Cannected? So Cannected is basically very comprehensive, data-driven farm management platform for indoor farming. We're there to solve the operational inefficiencies of having disjointed data. And we combine critical business processes into one platform. So part of the tool that we have, for example, is we combine productivity tool, we combine inventory, cultivation management. We also have clock in, clock out for staff, and of course we have data tracking everything behind it. And the reason why we're collecting all of this data is that because we know how valuable this data is for farmers, but we also wanted to bring value to the data because, like I said earlier, if it's just spreadsheets, it doesn't tell you anything. So we wanted to put all of this data together and give actionable insights for the farmers to take. So this is an example of what Aaron would see when he goes into his dashboards. So with Cannected, he can basically have full control of his data and full visibility of his operations. So he can basically create new batches. He can see all of his production schedules. He can track his employees' hours and how long it takes them to do tasks. He can track all of his raw materials and supplies as well. And of course, because we're fully integrated with Metric, we can automate all of the data recording and reporting for Aaron easily. So this is actually Aaron right here. He's the grow manager of Legion of Bloom. And since using Cannected actively about six months ago, he's been able to save at least 50%, and according to him, actually 60 to 70% of his time from his day-to-day operations. So Legion of Bloom has been a client of ours since late 2019, and working with them has actually given us a lot of insights as well to make our product even better than it was before. And we're at the point right now, and we're ready to go to market, and that's why we're here. We're trying to raise 500K in convertible notes, and we want to use this fund basically to hire local support staff, local developers, because all of our developers are actually located in offshore in Malaysia. So we've been extremely capital efficient in that way. And our goal is basically with the help of customer success staff, we want to be able to bring at least 20 new customers within a year. And one of the ways that we're trying to bring our new clients, our client acquisition efforts, we have basically signed with WeedClub actually, and Evan and I have been talking for months now and how we can work together. And WeedClub is going to be one of basically a strong lead gen channel for us. And we're also going to be leveraging our relationships with, obviously, with Legion of Bloom, and because they've already actually referred 3 different grow operations, so 3 to 5 grow operations to us. So we're ready to go out there. We have a fully ready product to go to market. We've been tested, and not only tested with a small operations. Legion of Bloom is a large operation with 50,000 square feet grow facility, multi-facility as well. And so we're ready basically. Our revenue model is a subscription model, similar to most SaaS platform, and it's basically based on number of square footage, number of business licenses, and number of seats. We also have very strong potentials for growth. Our big plan is basically to build additional modules for the cannabis supply chain and continue to expand our product. and so we can capture everyone in the supply chain. We also have the potential of going after the international market of cannabis growers. And more importantly, I think where, because our platform is actually, it's actually plant agnostic and grow agnostic.
Got 30 seconds left.
Okay, when we're able to go after the indoor greenhouse space. And basically that's it. And you know, we're women-led, women-owned company, and we're super excited to just bring new technology and innovation and to help farmers out there. Thank you.
Awesome. So, you know, Legion of Bloom's a pretty major customer for your pilot customer, and that's a pretty major grow. And the testimonial there is huge. So, you know, so here's where we open it up to the panel for some questions. And also we had a couple questions from the audience we can start with from our attendees. The first question from an anonymous attendee, thank you for the question, is with these new introductions, what is keeping you from installations? And also there was a question about your competition.
So with the only thing that's keeping us actually is we just wanted to make sure that we have a support team here. Our system is designed to actually absorb new clients quite easily. There's really no customization needed. It's an off-the-shelf solution. It's as easy as if you were to sign up with QuickBooks, anyone can just plug in and start playing. And so that's actually one of our great benefit that any growers can just plug it, sign up for the demo, download all the data from Metric if they have any, or easily just start building their data right there. And the second question, sorry, what was that?
About competition.
Actually, you know, it's very interesting about the competition. You will see there's a lot of companies out there and saying they're a farm management platform in the agricultural space, and also even in the cannabis space. So you've got Trim, you've got Cyclo, you've got you've got a bunch of other ones, and even all the legacy ones like MJ Freeway or Biotech THC. And I think our biggest benefit is that we built our system from scratch. Even us sitting there with Legion of Bloom, we have developed such strong relationships that we actually help them harvest the plants. We watch them use our system, and we talk to them, and whenever they have issues, and we're trying to figure out how can we help improve their processes even further, right? And I think that's unique in the industry right now, and the competition that I see. And our interface is completely easy to use because we know who our audience is. And we wanted to build a system that's really meant for them to manage their operations. So we're following their workflows rather than, hey, here's an SAP model, we're gonna customize it, and then we're just gonna make you use it. So we're really, really conscious of our users. And I think that also because we're combining so many different systems into one, I haven't seen any company yet that combines inventory tracking, facility planning, space utilization, productivity software, clock in and clock out function. And our system is basically an open system that we can cross integrate with any kind of solution like QuickBooks or any environmental control systems or scales. So I think that's a little bit more unique than the other cannabis software out there. But I do see that we do have I guess my biggest competitor that I see is going to be somebody coming from the the agricultural industry. And I've already actually identified one of them who's going to be a big threat to us and who's just entered the cannabis space, and that's Artemis. I don't know if you know any Artemis at all.
Thank you. So next question, we'll go to Mike McCormick.
Yeah, thanks. So have you done any other validation with customers aside from Legion of Bloom?
Yeah, we actually started small. We actually started talking to farmers who basically, cultivation, grow operations about the size of 10,000, 15,000 square feet. And I've done a lot of research basically before we even built Cannected. So like I said, I think we really, really try to build Cannected from scratch. So before we build it, we validated some of the workflows. We talked, we spent a lot of hours talking to all the various cultivators, even in the Bay Area, and going through all of the conferences as well. And we just wanted to meet them, and we wanted to understand really what their pain points are. And that's why we have designed Cannected to be so intuitive and so easy for them to just, plug in, enter their data or import their data, and you can start right away.
Have you validated your pricing?
I compared our pricing basically with the existing competition. Of course, the MJ Freeways and the Biotech, Track THCs, those companies. So I think we're coming in at a very fair price, especially with all of the tools that we're bringing in.
All right, last question here. We're going to go to Alex Kwon, and we'll keep it moving, and then we'll go to the scores.
Great presentation. Love women-owned companies as well. So you mentioned kind of you said that they're not your competition, but they are. So when you talk about Biotech, THC, Metric, MJ Freeway, those are sometimes jockeying for government contracts to do that. So in my experience with some companies like per se in Washington, you have a lot of companies that are third party that overlay the API and pull it out, and they'll have a lot of functions. And when you get to the larger companies, kind of what Mike was asking, their process flow is very different. So some companies that are really efficient, they'll have a sales portal tied into their management system, tied into the inventory, but they're using different systems to correlate that. And it becomes very specific. So if you're saying only with metric systems, how are you going to be able to integrate with other systems that are, mandatory by the state? Let's say MJ Freeway or BioTrack in other areas. So you won't be able to scale into those states. You'll just be able to say that, hey, this is the one thing. And I would challenge the point of you saying that it's just off the shelf, because in any type of system like that, it's usually never that way, because people's process flows from a growing perspective are just different. And you'll see that when you get to different scale companies that are running 2,000 lights to 50 lights, because some of these companies are much different scale when they get to the levels of the higher enterprise level. Right.
No, I agree with you. But one of the things that we have as a goal is that we wanted to make Cannected as flexible as possible. So however your size of your facility is, we're going to be able to manage and not customize. They can actually customize their own platform. It's so flexible. And we actually learned this by working with Legion. Because when we started, like I said, we actually started with the smaller scale farmers. And by understanding how other big operations actually do it and figuring out all the different challenges, and I think you're right. There'll be some other cultivators or other operations much bigger will have different processes.
To the point that someone just put in, you're going to need to raise more money, because if you're going to make it more flexible, it's not off the shelf. You're going to have to make changes, and then you're going to also have to scale with other platforms. So that's why I was asking that. I was basically asking is if you're going to utilize it for other seed to sale systems, it's over the top of it, so you can customize it. That's going to be a very different onboarding process with clients, and that would be your struggle to scale the technology and be able to do that. So you're going to probably need to raise more money than your 500K.
Yeah, actually, this 500K is going to be our bridge funding. So our goal is to really raise in the next 6 to 8 months our big round. but really, we really need this to just to have a bridge so that we can at least bring and attract new and bring in clients. And we've reached the point right now where we've spoken to a lot of people, and almost every single one of them basically tells us, like, why don't you go back first and try to get at least 5 to 10 customers and then come back, come back with, to us. So that is the goal for this 500,000 raise. And we think that, even with this 500,000, it will actually be able to take us a lot further. Like I said, we've been super capital efficient because we've been utilizing outsourced developers. And these are developers that I've actually worked with for 10 years or so in my agency days. So it's not like, I'm just outsourcing it to Fiverr, or I'm sourcing it to, to Ukraine or something. So, and this is why we've actually been able to take Cannected this far with only the investment that we've put into this. But yeah, I mean, we wanted to raise
I just
additional
wanted to
funding.
cut in. Sorry
Yeah,
to
sure.
cut in because we're running a little long. I want to
Okay.
keep moving. One thing that's critical too is that in the team, Yolanda has a great deal of experience too. Could you speak a little bit, Yolanda, about your background?
Sure. I've been in the Bay Area and in the enterprise space for a long time. I've put in my years, a bit like over 2 decades. I have supported every enterprise system known to man. You name it, I've done it. Siebel, SAP, Oracle, Salesforce. And one thing, and so at present I am with LinkedIn. And at LinkedIn, what's really great is they look at technology very differently. They look at scale very differently. And they have afforded me to learn, the technology and how they build to scale. And so with that, Nancy's mentioned, there's a lot of systems out there. They build it and they expect you to learn it, and they expect you to learn it and use it in the hopes that you will, maximize its potential. 2 decades in, I have yet to see that work. And yet we still build systems and software that same way, and it's got to stop. If we do that, if we build it that same way and we bring it into this industry, it would be an absolute detriment to this industry. We've got to think different, and we have the opportunity to start fresh, right? The system is supposed to help the grower. The grower is not to learn the system. The grower is to focus on growing and maximizing and producing the best product that they can. And the way we start that's different is we ask the grower, how do you want to grow? How do you grow? And then our template kicks in and our automation kicks in and wraps around the process. And we say, once you start, we watch over the process and we become the partner. And we have built-in systems that says, you've hit this milestone in your growth stage, you ready to go to the next one? By the way, did you know an employee forgot to punch out and now they're clocking over 24 hours, right? We become the eyes, the ears, the partner, the right hand, right? And that's how we look at our system. We're not looking at, put in a bunch of data, search for our online information and hope for the best. That's
Awesome.
not how we think of it.
Thank you very much, Yolanda. So, okay, Nancy, please put your question into the chat, and then other Nancy and Yolanda will answer it there in the chat. And so now we're going to go to our scores, and we'll start back at the top with Leslie Katz.
Go to 3.
Thank you very much, Leslie. And Nurit from Own a Life.
I just want to say, if you guys want to get into delivery, you guys would be amazing. This sounds incredible. So I'm going to give you a 5. Thank you.
Oh,
great score. And then lunastower.com.
I love this is a woman run and led, woman of color as well. And I have been myself trying to onboard folks with SaaS and CRM, and it has been a life, feels like a career-long thing that is needed. I really like that you want to put the money into staffing and building your team and support. I think that's brilliant. I think that says a lot about how turnkey this is, and I'm going to give you a 5.
you.
Thank you very much. Next up will be Nancy Roberts.
I think it was a great presentation. I think that data management is very important, especially in this industry and many others. We use it to make all of our business decisions. I think there's still a few different things to consider in building out your CRM, you know, including all of the potential client and customer feedback. But I'm totally on board. I give you a 4.
Thank you, Nancy. Sandra Miller from Runway.
You're on mute.
Let's see if we can find the mute for Sandra.
So I'll keep it quick and give you guys a 4. Great job.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sandra. Debra Chan next.
I like what I hear and see. I think I'm most concerned about that big competitor that's on the horizon, from the pharma or farm agricultural. So I would say definitely check out how they're going to threat and check out their weak points. And I'm giving it a 4. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Deborah. And then Mike McCormick.
Hey, great presentation. You know, I think you should definitely raise more money when you can, but it's definitely right that you should go into customer validation mode and really see if you can get in some customers and get them to the point where they would say, oh my God, I couldn't live without this. You know, if you rip this away from me, my heart would be broken, and then go raise a bunch more money. So I'll give you a 4.
Thanks, Mike. And then Alex Kwon.
Like I said before, I like you guys, your energy and your experience in doing it, but I think you got a long way to go. You need to do some more research about your competitors, look in other places and see the third-party systems that exist, because you'll start seeing a lot of the solutions that exist and maybe picking pieces from there to be more effective for your customers. So I'm going to give you a 3 just because of the work that you guys have left to do.
All right, thanks, panel. So other Alex will tally up those scores, and then next up is going to be Meristematic. From here, we're going to really get it cranking. It's my first time doing a virtual pitch, so I'm like letting things run forever. I want to make sure we're respectful of everybody's time today. But the questions are fantastic, so keep those coming in the chat. We're going to leave this chat open as long as necessary so that as many questions can be answered after the show as well.
Evan, I actually have a question. I can't seem to, like, where do I answer the chat? It's like only to you right now.
Tap the thing that says chat on the lower side of the screen.
Right,
so
but I do see it. I do see the questions, but there's.
I'm going to message it to you. I'm going to message it.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. So we had a 32 there. And so we're going to mark down 32 for Cannected. So great job, Nancy and Yolanda. Really, I mean, an early stage product with a great pilot partner. I would love for everybody to see the UI more too. It's got a beautiful UI. The UI on this software is absolutely clean as could be. So that's a 32 for Cannected. So thank you very much, Nancy and Yolanda.
Thank you.
All right, so next up we have Michael Stevens at Meristematic. And Meristematic is a tissue culture startup. Michael's been in the industry a long time. He's got some incredible advisors and team members. And so Michael from Meristematic, if you're ready, we'll hand it over to you.
Thanks, Evan. I appreciate that. Looking forward to pitching to everyone today, and I thank you for your time. Give me 1 second to queue this up. Can everyone see that okay there?
We see it.
Great, great. So hello, my name is Mike Stevens, and I'm CEO and co-founder of Meristematic. Meristematic is a high-tech cannabis nursery that uses tissue culture and molecular biology tools to produce high-quality virus and viroid-free starter plants for the hemp and cannabis industries. In California, we've had a long history of problems with starter plant production. Past studies have shown that 86% of starter plants on the open market were contaminated with toxic pesticides and chemicals. Recent changes to government guidelines have forced many producers out of business, and the inability for large producers to access high-quality virus-free starter plants on the open market has made it extremely difficult for those groups to scale quickly. So what's the starter plant market look like in a state like California? Most estimates range between $300 and $350 million is spent every year on the production and acquisition of starter plants. We see large groups like Harvest and Aurora investing millions of dollars into establishing their own tissue culture capacities, while smaller and mid-sized producers are looking to partner with groups like Meristematic in order to gain access to this key technology. Meristematic has developed a solution to help cultivators meet their large-scale demands. We also help them to reduce their costs around facility footprint and mother plant maintenance. The plants that we produce for our clients are true to type, and we do this all without the use of harmful chemicals and pesticides. The competitive landscape in California is still quite open. Our primary competitors, Front Range and WeedClub alumni, Segra Biosciences, have failed to really to impact the demand for starter plants in California due to the size of the market. There have been some new companies coming live in the past 12 months, but no single company can claim market dominance in California currently. And that's why I'm so excited to be speaking with you here today. Unlike Front Range and Segra Biosciences, you still have the opportunity to get in on the ground floor with Meristematic and realize real returns on your investment. Meristematic has one of the best science teams in the cannabis industry. Our Chief Science Officer, Dr. Ted Klein, has over 30 years tissue culture experience at DuPont Pioneer Hybrid. And famous cannabis author and cultivator, Ed Rosenthal, has recently joined Meristematic because of his firm belief in the power of tissue culture and the other intellectual property pursuits that we're engaging in to revolutionize the industry as we know it. In the past 12 months, Meristematic has achieved a number of milestones. We've secured significant contracts with some of the country's largest multi-state operators, Harvest Health and Recreation, and our customer engagement and client contractual commitments grow month after month. Meristematic has 3 revenue streams that are our primary lines of business. One is our clean cultivar program. The second is our tissue culture consulting service. And the third is the micropropagation of virus-free starter plants. A deeper dive into these 3 revenue streams, you can see that Meristematic's consulting and clean cultivar program do generate significant revenues for the company. But the true revenue driver for Meristematic is tissue culture micropropagation of starter plants for the California market. Meristematic will differentiate ourselves by implementing automation into our tissue culture process and establishing a robust patent portfolio with high value intellectual property. One example of these intellectual property pursuits is the use of imaging systems and machine learning to identify gender in cannabis instantly at a very, very low cost. Meristematic will be extremely profitable within 5 years, and the numbers you currently see on the screen represent business exclusively done within the state of California. Meristematic's here. We're looking to raise $2 million to expand our production capacity here in Hayward in the Bay Area. We're structuring this ask as a convertible note with a 20% discount to our early investors. We've raised $300,000 to date, and the $2 million will give us an 18-month runway to profitability. Meristematic is an ideal candidate for acquisition by any number of biotechnology or commercial agricultural firms. And upon such an acquisition, we would expect our investors to realize a ×20 return on their investment. I thank you for your time and look forward to answering any questions you have about Meristematic. Thank you.
Thanks, Michael. So, you know, tissue culture, a great way to get your start. So it looks like we have a couple of questions here. And let's see who we got. So first question is from Alex Kwon.
Sorry, I'm kind of eating right now, so I didn't want to stuff that in front of you guys' faces. So, excuse me. Tell me the differentiator of your technology from just if you're doing a meristem cut or a traditional tissue culture from like a 10-month, because normally the timelines are different, right? You have a 10-month interval, basically internal virus cleaning process, and then you have a TC process that basically will clean it from bugs and external pathogens. So what's differentiating from you from those other brands to be able to do that? Because tissue culture is not like this breakthrough thing. It's something that can be applied. And if you do it properly in clean settings, you can do that.
Yeah, we have well-established protocols and data to support that our processes are effective in eradication of specific organisms. Most notable is hops latent viroid, the dudding virus, which is one of the more problematic issues facing the cannabis industry currently in California. Again, we have data to support that our processes work for the eradication of that specific problem. And again, some of the other intellectual property pursuits that we'll be pursuing around pathogen identification at low cost and high throughput will also be a major differentiator for the company in the future.
Thank you very much. Looks like Leslie Katz has our next question there for you, Mike.
Sorry. Yeah, couple things. One is just, as you talk about the difficulty that your competitors have had in breaking into the space, how do you see yourself really being able to solve that problem? Can you go into a little bit more detail in that, and then, getting to the market dominance you talk about, and then how you get to the numbers that you have, how it scales so rapidly?
Absolutely, absolutely. So to kind of address your first question, it's not that Front Range or Segra have really failed to engage the market in California. It's the scale of the market in California. There could be 10, 20, 30 Front Ranges and Segras here, and odds are we wouldn't step on each other's toes due to the size of the starter plant market within the state.
So essentially all of you could get to the same scale that you're talking about for yourself?
Correct. And Meristematic has a very realistic market share target in mind, specifically in California.
We have a question here from David Bennett. Does Meristematic Clean Cultivar Program identify and address hops latent virus?
Yes, we do. Specifically, that dudding virus has been a major topic for the industry over the past I'd say 24 months. And, we do have processes and protocols in place that we can eradicate that specific problem from any cannabis genotype.
Awesome. There's more questions for you, Mike, but we're going to keep this thing popping.
Great.
You have questions about new customers. You have questions about the type of tissue culture. So definitely check out the chat.
Absolutely.
So we're going to go to the panel now for this. Let me see who else. Okay, we're going to go to the panel now for the scores. And we'll start with Leslie again.
Give it a 4. I really like the approach to solving a problem that's existing in the industry, the thoughtful way you've come at it, coming up with the sort of 3 different products that you have, and I'm just excited about what you're doing, and I think it's really going to I'm going to look forward to seeing your growth over the next couple of months.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nurit from Own a Life.
I'm going to give you a 4 today.
Thank you, Nurit. And Luna. LunaStower.com. Did we, let me unmute you. I probably unmuted you. There. You're muted, Luna, in case, okay, we'll come back to Luna in a second. Next up will be Nancy Roberts, please.
I'll give you a 4. It's super interesting stuff.
Thank you.
Thank you. Luna, are you back? Don't let me forget Luna Stower. I'm trying to unmute you, Luna, if you can hear me. Maybe you could text me the number too. Next up will be Sandra Miller.
Hi, I'm going to go with 4.
Thank you. And then next up will be Debra Chan.
I thought it was a very strong presentation. I give it a 5.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mike McCorms.
4 for me.
Thank you. And Alex Kwon.
I'm going to go a little against the grain here, as usual. I just think that if you're a good operator in the space, you bring small scale tissue culture in-house. I think genetics, I think the other part that you didn't talk about is the reason why it's hard for those other companies, because genetics are held so tightly amongst branded houses. And that will, the better operator you are, the more you'll control those aspects. And I think you'll have sugar there. So I'll give you an extra point just for having the potential harvest contract, but it's a 2.
Thank you. And then Luna, if you're out there, I don't know if we got you bumped in, if you have to dial back in, but if you can maybe message me on one of the chats here, your score would be great. So we have an incomplete score right now for Meristematic. We're going to get Luna's score as soon as we can connect with Luna.
Sorry about that.
Oh, there you are, just in time.
Sorry.
No problem.
For the voting?
Yeah, we need your score for Meristematic tissue culture.
I give it a solid 4. It's very exciting. I love the way that you were speaking about it, and this is definitely something that is missing in the greater industry conversation. So excellent job, and I can't wait to see how this kind of plays out.
Awesome. So thank you, Luna. So Meristematic finishes with a 31. Thank you very much, Mike, at Meristematic. Next up, we're going to go to Ted Lichtenberger from Flower Co. I've been very lucky to know Ted, almost since we started WeedClub. Ted's one of the first entrepreneurs I met in the cannabis industry. He has an incredible point of view and sees the world in a different lens than most people, which gives him a very unique and vibrant business acumen. And so I'm really delighted to hand over the At 420 pitch reins today now to Ted Lichtenberger of Flower Co.
Thank you, Evan. My name's Ted Lichtenberger, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of Flower Company, and we sell weed online. So today, the $8 billion illicit market still dwarfs the regulated market because high taxes and regulation, as well as relatively weak enforcement, is keeping folks from buying from their friend of a friend or the legal dispensary down the street. And our solution is the club. Our members pay $119 a year to get cannabis delivered for half the price. And we've been building our business for the last 18 months, but COVID is driving our next inflection point. As local governments declare cannabis delivery essential, it's clear that cannabis is recession-proof, and people are increasingly price sensitive as they brace for the downturn impact. So, ahead of COVID, we were already growing our $300K a month product sales by 10 to 15%. And now our order volume is up dramatically. And so we're tracking for closer to 500K monthly product sales this month. And we've done that despite spending $0 on marketing since the start of this year. The reason why is our product is really sticky, and our consumers are referring their friends to it. So what we found is that if someone tries Flower Co once, about 40% of them become a member, and then at least 70% of those stick around after the first year. And I think we can only improve those numbers as we improve our product over time. And what's great about this is by focusing on the weed whales who know what they want and want a lot of it now, we've been able to get AOVs that are 2 to 3 times the industry average and have annual spends of $2,500 on average, which means our 3-year LTV is in the $1,400 range. And so, that puts us on track to hit $1 million of sales in March, with 500K coming from the club and the other 500K coming from our fulfillment by flower services business. And that puts us on track to be profitable in June or July and start to reinvest that cash flow into additional growth initiatives. So, while in the past we've been referred to as the Costco of cannabis, we're really more like Amazon. And we realized that the infrastructure we had built to power Flower Co. could do a lot more. So we started to generate additional cash flow and economies of scale by helping power other people's brands and their own e-commerce stores. So our fulfillment by flower services include things like procurement, distribution, as well as cannabis. And what we've found is that we've already been able to serve leading brands like Old Pal, Kikoko, and Can, and we have a growing backlog of brands begging us to power their e-commerce solution. And so, you know, our growth as well as cost improvement initiatives put us on the cusp of profitability. And I think this really positions us for a larger round once the markets have rebounded, and will also enable us to reinvest our cash flow to grow and acquire more consumers. So, you know,
Ted, you're going in and out on your mic, just to let you know.
No. Okay. Well, I will try to finish this and then maybe dial in. I'm going to switch to put headphones on. This was not happening in the. I'm going to keep just trying to go, and we'll see what happens. So, you know, I think we have the best team in this space focused on delivery. We have a combination of industry veterans as well as tech veterans. I first got in this space after leaving McKinsey, where I worked for 3 years, focused on turning businesses around that were in distress and consumer packaged goods. And I originally cut my teeth building a brand called Humboldt Legends, where I helped to a farmer and a criminal defense attorney out of Humboldt County launch and get started. And by 2018, after I'd grown that business to $1 million of revenue a year, I realized our infrastructure, this license basket we had developed, could do a lot more. And so we ended up launching Old Pal as well as Flower Company out of that original company. And despite being able to build Old Pal to millions a month of revenue, by the end of 2018, I realized we were onto something even more important with Flower Co. And so I ended up committing to go full-time with Flower Co. and have built out the Flower Co. business. And we, you know, now have people who have been in the industry for decades, as well as folks who have founded and exited other tech delivery companies, including Bloom That, which is a flower delivery business. So right now, we're raising $1 million on a safe note with a $33 million cap. That's the same price as our last round in July. And I would love it if y'all would join the club.
Thanks, Ted. Great pitch. So use code WeedClub for $15 a month membership. I like that. So panelists, Flower Co., definitely a lot of traction. We got a question here from an anonymous attendee asking, for Ted, what was the impact you felt from being a part of Y Combinator?
So I think that being part of Y Combinator was one of the most impactful things we've done as a business. It made us commit to focusing on building Flower Co. as the core thing, rather than having other brands that we were launching or other projects. And so I think it was one of the most important things we did as a business. And it also, I think it's hard to really get the impact of this, but just making you think a little bit bigger about what you're trying to achieve. And I think that's why you know, you'll see in the way we've built out our business, we're looking to not only just power our own club, but also power e-commerce and cannabis in general.
All right, Nurit has a question for you.
Yeah, hey, great job. Awesome pitch and amazing company. I've definitely been watching you guys, so congratulations. My question is, is the menu, once somebody gets onto the membership, very similar to any other delivery service, or what's the difference between the menu? Like, is the how much lower is the cost, I guess?
Yeah, so I think that there's two different elements of the menu. One is the price and one is the mix. And so from a pricing standpoint, the menu is, depending on a retailer's markup, anywhere from 30 to 50% lower than the retailer. And then there's also some tax advantages because we operate our dispensaries, and so they tend to be non-arm's length transactions. So there's like definitely savings of the like 30 to 50% for the consumer. But then from a variety standpoint, because we pick and pack out of one fulfillment center instead of a fulfillment center in every different place, we are able to offer a much broader breadth of products. So since January alone, we've added numerous brands, but I think we have one of the wider concentrate menus available in any dispensary, and we're going to continue to expand our kind of core offerings of concentrates and flower, as well as other long tail things like full offering and mix of vendors like Level or Kikoko, things like that.
Very cool.
Thank you. Sorry, Nurit, go ahead.
I was just going to ask, and then so if you have one distribution hub where you're packing all these orders, how far are you guys going? Like, are you covering?
So we have one fulfillment center that does distribution to local last mile deliveries places. So each of our areas that we service, and we service all of Los Angeles, as well as all the way down to Long Beach, Mariposa area, Sacramento, the entire, well, not the entire Bay Area, but SF, East Bay, Vallejo, Marin, and Humboldt County. So each of those core nodes has its own depot. But because we are pre-scheduling our routes and we can plan them, we are able to serve a wider area than if we were doing on-demand delivery.
Very cool.
Awesome. Thank you, Nurit, for the questions. We have another question here from Mike McCormick.
Hey, thanks, Ted. This is a little bit of inside baseball or something because Ted and I know each other a little bit. Can you just break down again what your annualized subscription revenue is, annualized delivery revenue, and then your gross margins on both of those?
Yeah, so our annualized member revenue right now would be in the, think for a second. So we're doing so we have 240K a year of like membership revenue on the like club delivery side. Last year we did like 2.5 million of product revenue, but this year I'm expecting to do a total of like 8. Where as on the like the fulfillment side right now we're at 500K a month of fulfillment revenue, and I'm expecting that to grow to be like a total for the year of 10 to 12 based on the contracted demand we have right now.
Got it. And gross margin on fulfillment and delivered product is around what?
So the gross margin on the delivery on the club product is 20 to 30%. Our markup makes it 21%, and then our house brands represent an additional 10% of margin. And then on the fulfillment services, it depends a tiny bit on the service we're offering, but our average margin is 20% on that work.
Thanks. Awesome.
Thanks. Last question here from Alex Kwon, please.
Hey, Teddy, how you doing?
Good. How you doing?
It's a easy one. Just, I'm curious about when you talk about your profitability number, and it seems like I'm just trying to understand the model a little bit more. But instead of just kind of going through that route of where you think it's going to scale, is what are your biggest challenges? Because it's a lot that you're trying to do on like what you're coordinating, all the things that you've learned from all the other companies. what are the biggest challenges that you see ahead to get to like true scale profitability in your model?
Yeah, so I think that the biggest challenge that we face right now is being able to acquire enough, like to have scalable growth channels. I think that's the same challenge that all delivery businesses in the space eventually run up against. What we have found is that our LTV and like just the value of our user justifies, with the paid acquisition strategies we've had, a 6-month payback on consumers. So we believe that we're relaunching our website right now with it being rebuilt by an in-house dev team instead of our out-of-house dev team. And we believe that by launching a new site that we iterate more quickly, that we will be able to improve that payback cycle and be able to scale on a faster basis. But that's probably the greatest weakness that I think everybody kind of faces in the delivery side. Though I think this, like, the second most difficult thing is staying focused on the core delivery business. There's a lot of opportunities that we have come up in front of us because of our position in the industry and the relationships we have. And so we've gotten a lot better at saying no to new projects. And over the last 2 months, I have been able to take the other business that I founded and wind down its operations. So it's no longer like an operating business, so that I'm fully focused and my team is fully focused on building this.
One last question. Technically, it's your sub model, right? Your subscription model. The growth, what's the growth of that have been? I don't know if you answered that, just do it quickly, but average lifetime customer, and then the profit per sub.
So we have 1,500 members paid, and it's growing on the same rate as our sales are. So it's been 10%, 15% for the last few months, and I'm expecting we'll see this month's bigger spike convert into more members next month. They tend to take 20 to 30 days to become a member, and we make $1,400 LTV.
What'd you say? What'd you say the revenue per sub is?
$2,500 a year.
Okay.
Awesome. So, you know, I know, Leslie, you have another question in there, but let's see if we could put that in the chat for Ted and crew. And let's go to the scores. I mean, amazing traction, amazing company, visionary founder. And I really liked how you stopped to think too at some of those questions. That's a great example for people learning how to pitch. So if you're watching this and you know you want to be in an at 420 pitch and you get tough questions, it's always good to take a moment like that, the way that Ted just did. That was a great example of how to handle Q&A. So let's go. I'm going to mix up the scores here, and we'll start with Mike McCormick.
I will go 5. Good job.
And then we'll go Leslie Katz.
I'll go 4. I thought it was great, and got a little insight yesterday too that you're doing some interesting things around the COVID virus situation, and I think I love that you're addressing a need there and are creating delivery models for people that I think will last them longer past, well past the immediate crisis, that I think will stand your business in good stead. But I'm really excited about what you're doing. So thank you.
Great point. Next up is Nurit Raphael from Own a Life.
I'm gonna give you a 5. I've been watching you, Ted. You're super talented and very intelligent. Just, it's really fun to watch you create all these companies. So keep going.
Alex Kwon.
I'm gonna give you a 4, Teddy.
Debra Chan.
Yes, I think that Ted's got a great track record. I love his background and his track record. And the fact that he's saving 30 to 50% for consumers, and he's 30 to 50% lower than retailers. So I give him a 5.
Awesome. Sandra Miller.
Hi, I'm gonna go ahead and give him a 5.
Awesome.
First 5 of the night.
Awesome. Nancy Roberts.
I'm also going to go with the 5. I love the fulfilled by flower, and I can't wait to see you grow to Amazon size.
And lunastower.com.
I have been a fan of Ted since we met at Gateway probably 4 or 5 years ago now. Everything he touches turns to gold. He's got a heart of gold. He's sharp, he's brilliant. Literally anything that he's doing, including this, he has my full go ahead. So I got 5 on it.
Wow, great scores. So Alex Kwon will tally those up. And really a great presentation, great example of how to present, and also handling the technical part. I mean, just great stuff. So very cute puppy there. So we got a 38 there for Flower Company. Ted Lichtenberger, Flower Company, jumping into the lead. So as of right now, we got Flower Company in the lead. We got behind there is CB Therapeutics, and then it's a logjam with Cannected, Meristematic, 11 Biomics, and ZAM Grinders. All great presentations. So we've got just a few presentations left. And so thank you everybody for hanging out. These founders have all worked really hard to bring these presentations to you today. It's really not normal conditions. Everybody's with home lockdowns and homeschooling and the way things have been going. I just can't say enough how much I appreciate everybody's energy here. So next up is Murmmr. Murmmr was a last minute entry. We had Betsy Cabakar scheduled to get rocking here with Cub Baked. And we had some unforeseen circumstances. So Betsy's got, in the next event, we're going to look forward to having Betsy in there if she's ready and able. And but Greg Long from Murmmr jumped in. He's got a really innovative product. And so we're going to hand it over now to Greg Long of Murmmr, Murmmr.
Hey everybody, my name is Greg Long. I am the co-founder of Murmmr. We have invented smokable cannabis pods and the exceptional devices with which to use them. Okay, let's jump over to our deck and get this presentation on the road. Murmmr is a San Francisco-based consumer products good company. We started in 2018, and we're focused on providing our customers with an exceptional cannabis smoking experience. I'm sure you guys are all familiar with market size projections, but I'd like to direct your attention to that number at the bottom of the screen. 45% of all sales are cannabis flower. Cannabis flower has been and remains the bedrock of retail sales. These numbers continue to be supported by the data coming in from sales during the COVID outbreak. People are really staying home and smoking a lot of weed. Now, when you go and think back to last summer's vaping panic, the big takeaway is that there's been a fundamental negative shift in public perception and purchasing patterns regarding vaping. Our emphasis on smoking, not vaping, is a strong market differentiator. We've been about smoking flower from day one. We think it tastes better and it's trusted by consumers. The problems have to do with mess, time to prepare, and lingering stigma issues. Our solution is the invention of clean, zero-waste, smokable pods. We pair these pods with our beautiful devices that are designed to be proudly displayed and used. The pods come 12 to a pack. They're 1/3 of a gram each. Our consumer trials have shown that this is the size our customers prefer. They're perfect for a short session. Our pipes are made to be instantly recognizable and covetable. They work as great as they look. Now, I know we've seen a lot of closed systems fail to gain traction in the cannabis market. That's why we're launching with our pipes first. You'll be able to buy them directly from us, and you'll be able to smoke your own bud in them. We'll add further value to the pipes with the deliveries and shipments of our fresh, convenient pods. We've run local trials in the pipe, and the pods to test our assumptions and get unbiased feedback. They've been really amazing. They've helped us with honing our approach, and the initial reactions have been just outstanding. Now, we've come a long way, and we're at the final stages before launch. We're right now finishing our engineering for production and manufacture. We've nailed down our manufacturing partners and run tests with all of them. And we're closely monitoring the impact of COVID-19 on their daily operations. This is our pre-COVID-19 timeline. We were planning to launch the pipe at the end of summer in order to gear up for strong Q3 and holiday sales. Frankly, we're just going to have to see how it plays out with this disease. The good news is that because we haven't launched, we can be flexible and make sure we do so when the timing is right. Our marketing approach is straightforward. We have incredible PR and marketing partnerships already in place, and our strategy is to build an exceptional product, get in the hands of amazing people, and work with them to tell the story about how Murmmr enhances their lives. These are, of course, pre-COVID projections. However, we've built our assumptions on very conservative sales, and our focus has always been on quickly achieving profitability. Timeline changes due to COVID shouldn't significantly alter our projections once we come to market. I have 25 years in consumer product goods. I founded a brand that to this very day sells in Target, Bed Bath & Beyond, and thousands of stores across the world. My co-founder, Erica, has led major project teams at Fortune 100 companies for the past 15 years. Our all-star advisor board is a collection of amazing people from across industries such as fashion, PR, D2C, design, and cannabis. These are phenomenal people who are very active in guiding us with our product and our strategies. Today, we're finishing our $370,000 raise. We're 88% committed and looking to wrap this up. Thank you for your time, and judges, I look forward to your questions.
Awesome. Thank you, Greg, for the pitch, and very cool looking device. So panelists, you know, if you have questions, feel free to raise your hand or note it in the chat somewhere. And it looks like Sandra Miller has the first question.
I think this is a beautifully designed product. And I'm just wondering, as you sort of think about how have you sort of are thinking about the example of Keurig and Nespresso and their, you know, differentiation and respective business models. To what extent do you think that applies to your approach?
Yeah, that's a great question. One that, quite frankly, comes up quite a lot. We like to frame ourselves as an Nespresso, where we're doing a lot of the heavy lifting of brand. So we feel like we have a good idea about how to convey brand, whereas Keurig is a little bit more of a one-size-fits-all for the companies that they choose to work with. So we'll be doing a lot of the heavy lifting on brand.
So just to add on to that, I guess one of the big differentiators is, you know, Nespresso sources their own, you know, premium coffee for what they distribute, and that's very tightly controlled. So can you speak to that in terms of your approach and, you know, your sourcing? Because while you talk about the brand side, it sounds like the model that you're deploying, because you're starting with the device first and not the pods. Right. Are you ultimately planning to get to sort of the full Nespresso sort of cycle, but you're just going to start with the device? Or do you think you're going to follow the Keurig, you know, anybody can sort of develop their own pod, and which approach is best for your business in terms of, you know, investors and really creating the most value you can?
Sure. So we're positioning ourselves as a luxury brand. So similar to how Nespresso versus Keurig worked, what we want to be able to do is provide a really exceptional experience for our customers. And a lot of that has to do with consistency and reliability, but it also has to do with like knowing the sourcing and the relationship that we have with our cultivators. So what we want to be able to do is work with really, really local cultivators in the markets that we serve, and be able to promote their activities and their brand talk a lot about their brand with the relationship that we've built with our customer. And be able to say, hey, they've got this special limited release that we were able to work with them, and we can offer it with you because you live in this particular area, and that we can get this fresh product directly delivered to you. That for us, that's really important, and our relationship that we've built with our customer needs to be one of immense trust, and also making sure that the quality level is really something that they're looking forward to.
Awesome. One more question here from Alex Kwon.
So I'm trying to think which question to ask. I have a device question of deploying the strategy of the device, and then obviously a preservation question of the cannabis, because when you create a pod, and anytime you do that, cannabis in general, flower is very perishable, and how you store it becomes really important. The cure, all those aspects that creates and that translates to the experience. I'm sure you know that from some of the people that you've spoken to. So number one is, how are you solving the preservation issue? And then what is the actual half-life of actually experiencing it, being able to sell through that product being delivered to the consumer? And then second is, what is your device strategy? Because when you're doing a different device, the cost of that, I'm very familiar with a lot of other pod and vapor systems. So some companies will put out an incredible amount of capital towards their devices just to get it into the hands of people so they can sell it. So that's a very capital intensive process when you target it. So what's your device strategy, and how are you solving the problem for preservation in the pods to maintain quality?
Absolutely. I mean, those are great questions, and they definitely are front and center of our mind. Our main focus is to create an exceptional product and to get it in the hands of people and have them really love it. So we're really focused on making sure that this pipe is a terrific pipe. It's going to be terrific for the bud that you use. It's going to be terrific for the pods that we have. And for us, it allows us to begin to tell the narrative of Murmmr immediately. We're going to be able to ship it direct. We're going to be able to ship it online. We're going to be able to do it multi-state. And it's something that we can get in people's hands, and they can really appreciate, hey, this is, we just lost my meeting. There we go. Sorry about that. And it frames the company in terms of, this is the type of quality that we produce, and begins to build that trust level. And so we're putting a lot of focus on that. In fact, it's the primary focus of the company right now, is to have a great launch of the pipe and make sure that people, it delivers on the promise that it has, both in design and functionality. As far as freshness goes, you're absolutely right. I think the main thing is that we're packing these pods in a way that we're getting them to customers quickly, and they're going through them quickly. That's why we've moved from, initially we're doing 0.5 gram pods, and now we're at 1/3 gram pods. We're really trying to get sessions for people where they use the entire pod in one time, and that they're moving through the product quickly. So we'll be doing small localized runs of pods, and that's the main issue. Is you don't want long shelf lives. You don't want these things sitting around. You want people using them quickly and getting through them and enjoying them.
Yeah, more specifically, is like, I appreciate the question, but I don't feel like the answer was there. Like, how are you sealing it? Because so if you leave it open, and depending if you're a humid environment or you're in a dry environment like SoCal, it's going to dry the pot out and it's going to change it. So how are you seeing it? Is it CO2? Is it nitrogen? What are you doing for preservation for the time of the last mile to delivery? And then the other side for the devices is still, yes, I understand that, but like, what is that strategy to say, hey, we're going to give devices out for free. We're going to, monetize X to do that, to get ubiquity in the market so people have that. Those are kind of the questions that I was asking.
Yes, so we are not a company that's giving devices away for free. We have completely the opposite approach. So we don't believe in disposable devices. We don't believe in, wrecking the environment with battery-filled pieces of plastic that people view as worthless. This is a non-battery operated pipe. You use a lighter with it. It's equivalent to a nice pair of sunglasses. This is something that you're going to see and feel and hold and touch and be like, wow, this thing really looks sharp. It's something that I want to own, I want to display, I want to use a lot. We believe that there's a covetability aspect to it, that we have to design something that the minute anybody sees it, they go, I want to know more about that. I want to learn about it. I want to, I want to own it. Frankly, the pods come in for us as, a real bonus to our customers later, later on. We'll come out to them and say, hey, by the way, this pipe that you own and love and enjoy, why don't we send you some CBD pods that we've got, and see how you like the convenience factor of that. And oh, you're in San Francisco, we've just rolled out a program here with one of our local cultivators, and we can get you something that we think you're really going to enjoy. That's a special thing, special convenient pod for you to enjoy. So I hope that answers the pipe question. As far as the pod question goes, we're developing our packaging on that. The packaging looks similar to this. We're following. We have advisors who are heavily involved in tea, and the packaging of tea is not terribly dissimilar to the packaging of cannabis, and so we're working with them in terms of best case scenarios, how they do premium tea packaging, keep that fresh.
Awesome. Thank you very much for those answers and for the questions for the panel. So we're going to jump into the scoring now, and keep it moving, because I'm throwing the world's longest pitch event tonight. I really appreciate everyone for hanging in there. These companies mean a lot to me and to our community, and all of them are just as important. So I want to make sure everybody gets their time, and so we're going to blow through these scores now. And so that's Greg Long from Murmmr. Very innovative new device, and it's very elegant and sophisticated. We'll go right down the list. And so Leslie.
Really like the product, love the pipes. I do want to see, I address some of the problems with the pods, but I think you're definitely thinking along the right lanes, right track, and I'm really excited to see more. But I'm all about elegant, beautiful product, and I think your pipes really look fantastic. So,
thank you, Nurit Raphael from Own a Life.
I had raised my hand and my computer died, but I'm back. And Greg, I think it's so beautiful. It's very up Ona's alley. We're very much the Range Rover soccer moms over here. Elegance, packaging, key. I'm going to go with Leslie with the 4, only because of the pod situation. And I'd love to have one if you want to send me one.
Got some customers rolling in here. Great. Luna Stower.
Nube and I really like the fact that it doesn't create e-waste, and the fact that that's being addressed, especially right now. I would have given it a 4, but that for me bumps it up to a 5.
Awesome. Nancy Roberts.
I'm also giving you a 4. I think you have the right product strategy, launching the hardware first, and then driving the brand and the consumer to want to use your brand, and then launching the pod afterwards. 4.
Thank you. And then Sandra Miller.
I'm going to go with a 4 in the interest of time. Really nice job overall.
Thank you. Debra Chan.
I think it's a really sexy, modern, sleek design. I'll give it a 4. Thank you.
Mike McCormick.
I will give a 3.
And Alex Kwon.
I will give it 2. Good branding, packaging. I just don't see the other aspects of it.
Thank you. And so Alexander Kwon is going to tally those up. And that was Greg Long from Murmmr, jumping in here at the last minute, and did a great job, and really appreciate you stepping up to the plate here at the last second, Greg. So we had a 30 there for Murmmr. Great score. And congratulations on that. So next up, we have an Oklahoma presenter. Once you're going virtual, it changes everything. And we were going to see Zach from ZAM Grinders flying out to San Francisco and taking to some stores and stuff. But hey, everybody's virtual. It's the first WeedClub F420 pitch where you could actually smoke a joint if you wanted to, because you cannot smoke in the Twitter building, that's for sure. So anyway, spark up if you want to. And next up is Mark Leibowitz from Incredibuds out of Oklahoma.
Hi, everyone. I'm Mark Leibowitz, COO of Incredibuds. a licensed medical marijuana grow facility in Tulsa. And this is our Incredibud. Our team. So my background is in startup business development and pharmaceutical manufacturing and distribution. Our CEO, Eddie Chetta, he's an experienced commercial contractor and expert in locations and leases, and he shines in sales and marketing. We have 2 master cultivators and a process efficiency engineer with experience growing in Southern California. So why Oklahoma? Oklahoma is the 4th largest medical marijuana market in the nation. There's over 280,000 legal medical marijuana users. And when we did our market research, we found that the market is truly underserved in both the number and the sophistication of suppliers. And better yet, today's startups have high barriers when wanting to enter this market. Today, it requires multiple years of residency, a complete build out with a certificate of occupancy, and then you can apply for a license. That translates to increased risk, time, and expense. So what we've accomplished, we received our commercial grower's license in August 2019. We also received our Bureau of Narcotics and Dangerous Drugs license in September. Eddie found us a fabulous facility, 10,700 square feet, very discreet, and we've kept it that way, except for the 8-foot barbed wire fence across the front and all around it. This is an exceptional location, and we've built a best-in-class design. We have 3 professional cultivation rooms. We have a nursery, a curing and drying room, and full fire suppression throughout the entire facility. So where we are now, well, we just completed our first harvest. It was an R&D harvest, only 264 plants. We yielded about 2 to 3 ounces per plant. In Tulsa, Oklahoma at the moment, the market is getting about $2,500 a pound wholesale for average quality marijuana. The high-end products are going for $3,500 and more. We're just starting our second harvest. We have, as you can see here in this picture, we have 400 clones from our own mothers, and we have more to go. Now, this part of the facility is built out about 70%, and we are growing in this part of the facility right at the moment. If we don't receive any further investment and just continue on our own trajectory, we're going to do about $500,000 worth of revenue this year and about $800,000 next year. It's going to take us till 2024 to generate enough money from this one room to build out the entire facility. We obviously want to speed this up. So with investment, we think this year will end up around $820,000. Next year will grow to about $3.5 million. And when our processes are very efficient, we'll grow to about $4.6 million a year. But what's really exciting is the income from operations that this will generate and the free cash flow as a percentage of revenue that's available for distribution. So our ask, we're looking for $1.5 million of funding to complete and execute our strategy. We want to finish up the 3 additional grow rooms, and we want to scale up from 400 plants to about 2,200 plants. We plan to return any funds to investors between 2 and 3 years after our close. Ideally, a mixture of debt and equity would be the way we would prefer to go. And we have a future. Our future plans, our value chain expansion is to vertically integrate. We'd like to add an industrial processing facility with a distillate machine. We'd like to add a dispensary. The dispensary gives us the ability to market our own products and truly expand our revenue potential. If you're interested, please contact me. I'm Mark Leibowitz. We'd love to have you on board. Thank you.
Awesome job, Mark. Incredibuds out of Tulsa, Oklahoma. Who would have thought a San Francisco pitch event was going to have a Tulsa, Oklahoma presenter? It's fantastic. So, panel, if you have any questions here, you know, obviously Incredibuds is looking for capital and working capital to expand its production, and it's a cash flow business. You want cash flow businesses? Here you go. So, if there's no questions, then, you know, who's your head grower?
So we have 2 head growers. Corey Anderson is our main head grower. Corey has a background in American Green as well as several state grows. His last grow was 20,000 square feet.
Debra Chan asks, what about the competition?
So competition is very interesting. Right now, we're told we have the third largest facility in Tulsa. The barriers to entry for new businesses is tremendous. You must have 2 years of residency, and you have to completely build out your facility, invest all that money before you can apply for your license. Most of the grows in Oklahoma are about the size of a garage, spare bedroom, or somebody's basement. We're the third largest commercial grow facility, according to the OMMA in Tulsa.
Great.
Awesome. Thank you for the question, Deborah. And all right, so let's go to the scores unless we have one more question here. I see Sandra Miller has a question.
I was wondering, as you, I don't know how many people you're employing now, but I just thought you could speak to opportunities for funding from state and local agencies, because if you're creating new jobs, that is huge in Oklahoma. So I think that, you know, I just wanted to give you an opportunity to speak to that because it could help sort of make an even stronger case for possible investment.
Sure. So today we have 5 employees. When we're fully up to speed, minus the trimmers, we'll have probably 7 to 9. This will be an automated facility. We will be using automatic drip equipment, and we will have as much automation as possible. Our process engineer has set this up in Southern California in the past, and we took labor, which is the largest expense, out of the picture. We'll use a pre-roll machine for our medium-sized buds, and we will use automatic trimmers for some of our product and hand trimming some of the other product. So we'll probably grow to about 12 people. I'm not sure where that will take us for state or local investment from the county.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry to cut in there. Question from Ryan Miller at Operation Evac. He says, Tulsa, Oklahoma is the former home of Black Wall Street. What is Incredibuds doing for diversity and equity?
Very good question. As it turns out, we have 4 of our 5 employees are of color now. That just happened, and we are looking to diversify. We are trying to add some female growers. We have a couple of female trimmers lined up, and we would like to be a diverse organization. There is a huge backlog of employment in the Oklahoma area, and we have been getting people applying. An unbelievable amount of employment applications have been found. We're not ready to scale up yet until we complete the construction of those other 3 grow rooms.
Got one more question for you from Alex Kwon.
Okay, Alex?
Trying to unmute you, Alex. Maybe you can do it. There you go.
Great presentation. It's always good to look at new nascent markets. What is the market cap of the area in Tulsa? What's your market share? And what is your projected COGS as far as your cost of production that you're looking at and targeting?
So we don't have a market share number yet because we've only had an R&D harvest. However, since the COVID-19 business has happened, we've been getting calls from dispensaries asking if they could pre-purchase our next grow. We have 2 dispensaries in Tulsa trying almost to outmaneuver each other on getting their hands on our next grow. We found in Oklahoma, there is a lack of sophistication in the growers. The largest bud you can get is about 1 inch long today. Most of the stuff is basically popcorn buds. It's very rare to find more than a couple of pounds, according to our dispensaries, of any high quality product. Our cost of goods is very low. That was on one of our slides, and it's due to the automation and the skill that our growers have.
Do you know the number offhand? Cost of so cost of production and price per gram as far as the market is currently commanding, because that will constrict over time. Just curious where that's at today.
I really don't know the answer to that, Alex.
Okay, thank you.
All right. I don't know is always a fair answer too. So
that's a great answer. I love that. You know, you're being honest.
So, okay, panel. Let's score Incredibuds out of Tulsa, Oklahoma, a nascent market, a new market, and Mark's pitch here. And so we'll go right down the line. Leslie Katz. Leslie Katz. Do we have you muted? I'm going to unmute you. There you are. Oh, I think. There we go. Leslie, do we have you? There you are.
I'm sorry. Stepped away for a sec. 3.
Thank you. So we have 3 from Leslie and Nurit Raphael from Own a Life.
I think this is really exciting to be in Oklahoma, and it sounds like you're really kind of a pioneer, which a lot of us are over here in California. So I'm going to go ahead and give you a 4. Congratulations.
Thank you.
LunaStower.com.
A 4 as well.
Thank you, Luna. And Nancy Roberts.
I'm going to give you a 4. I think that you're breathing in a lot of business to Oklahoma, and especially with the pending recession, I think your business will be able to sustain, and I hope to see you grow.
Thank you.
Good feedback. Sandra Miller.
I'm also going to go with a 4.
And Debra Chan.
I hear great things about cannabis businesses in Oklahoma. I think it's a strong market to be in, and I think you're well positioned, so I'm going to give you a 4.
And Mike McCormick.
I will give a 3. Good presentation. Thanks.
Thank you, Mike.
Alex Kwon.
I like everything that you're doing. It's an opportunity. I think that your speed to market, getting some efficient operators that have done this already, will accelerate you across your competition. And because it's being new, is as much as it's a new license opportunity, I think that there's a lot of potential there if you find the right strategic partners. And I think you have a lot more work to do, but that speed will differentiate you when things constrict in your market space. So I'm going to give you a 3, knowing that I'd happy to have a conversation, because I think it's important to understand your competition, but be able to get to scale before them and control that market share in that area, which then you can make a lot of impact through that platform if you do it properly.
Thank you, Alex.
Great feedback. So, all right, Alex Quinn has tallied that fast. So we have a 29 for Incredibuds out of Tulsa, Oklahoma. Thank you, Mark. Great job.
Thank you.
All right, we have 2 presentations left. And I guarantee you probably have not seen either, okay? Because we have a totally brand new app launching from the creators of Hello MD. And it's called Daily Bonfire. And so Mark Hadfield, one of the original founders of Hello MD, and his well-known team, they've created a new app, and so we're going to learn about it today. It's called Daily Bonfires. Mark Hadfield.
Thank you so much, Evan. I'm looking forward to getting some feedback from our cannabis community here, and thanks very much for sticking around to hear my pitch. Here it comes. Hi, I'm Mark Hadfield, and I'm from Hello MD. I'm here to present our new app, the Daily Bonfire, that makes shopping for cannabis fun and rewarding. Well, we're solving one of the hardest problems in cannabis, and that is that marketing cannabis is extremely difficult. Social sites like Facebook and Instagram arbitrarily shut you down, and most channels won't take your money, like Google, Twitter, the list goes on. And as a result, cannabis companies are forced to use newspapers and billboards to advertise. Because of this, tracking ROI is extremely difficult, and brands and retailers don't get the data they need about the campaigns that they're running in newspapers and billboards. And then finally, millennials and Gen Z are blind to display advertising, and that drives the customer acquisition cost up to around $80, which is just simply not very good value for money. Despite these problems, it might surprise you to know that over $2 billion is spent in the United States advertising cannabis each year. Most of the money goes into newspapers, which shows you how distorted this market is. Our goal at Daily Bonfire is to make a 10% penetration into the $2 billion total addressable market for advertising cannabis. In addition to making shopping fun and rewarding for consumers, we have a strong value proposition for advertisers. So first of all, we give you an incentive management campaign tool that allows you to simultaneously manage multiple campaigns across hundreds of retailers or groups of retailers. It's pay for performance marketing, meaning that we don't charge you unless we actually deliver a customer, and we give you full reporting on ROI. And finally, and most importantly, we help to reduce the customer acquisition cost from up to $80 to less than $10, which is really phenomenal. So it starts with a centralized campaign management platform that allows you to run hundreds of simultaneous campaigns across groups of retailers or specific retailers. And the incentives are actually prizes that consumers may win by checking in at a retailer. So it's very different to display advertising in that the consumer may win a prize. There's a lot more in it for the consumer. From the consumer's perspective, it's a fun, engaging experience. It starts with a daily show, which is hosted by a live comedian, where you can compete for cash, and it's fun and engaging. And then you check in the app to see what the latest prizes are that are available and which local retailers they could be won at. And you go and visit that local retailer. And when you get there, you physically check in on the app using your GPS location and see if you've won a prize. So again, totally different to display advertising, something more like Groupon in that we're actually driving real customers in the door of consumers, of retailers. Our business model is simple. We take a 30% commission on each incentive redeemed. And so if we make our goal of a 10% penetration into the total addressable market, that would be 200 million in top line and 60 million net. And for the math on how we calculate customer acquisition, a great prize like tickets to a music festival, say, may cost $1,000, and we put a probability of winning that at 1,000 to 1 on check-in, which means that the customer acquisition cost would be between $1 and $10, depending on how many of those people that physically walk in the door of the retailer actually convert to customers. Our target market is the 2,000 brands and 2,600 retailers in the United States in cannabis. And of course, that's 40 million US consumers. We can quickly expand internationally because we're a tech platform. There's nothing to stop us from expanding. And I'd also like to point out that this is not specific to cannabis. We could include hotels, spas, restaurants. There's literally no limit to the amount of physical locations which we could enable people to check in and win prizes. So this is a very big idea, not unlike Groupon again. So finally, I'd just like to wrap by saying we are raising money. We're super excited to bring this technology to market. We're engaged with a handful of key brands right now, representing hundreds of retailers throughout California. My name is Mark from Hello MD, and I'd love to hear from you. Thank you.
Great pitch there, Mark. So yeah, new app, new product, you know, a way to reach people. This is right up Nancy Roberts' alley here. So I'm not surprised that Nancy has the first question.
I've been waiting all evening for this pitch, actually, because app marketing is my bread and butter. So which brings me to the question, what's your user acquisition strategy to get the app at a scale where advertising makes sense for your potential advertisers?
Yeah, well, thanks. Great question. We've experimented with lots of different channels, and we found one that works really well for us. What we do is we partner up with influencers, and we have them actually do a preview of them hosting the show through their channels. They have about between 500 and 3 million followers each on different channels. They do a preview giveaway that, you know, somebody could win $500 if they download the app and attend the show, and then they come in and they co-host the show with one of our comedians, which happens from our office. And then finally, we put them in a dispensary for a meet and greet with some of the influencers as well, and people can come in and check in on the app, win a prize and a handout. And so those series of steps we repeat about every 3 weeks with different influencers, and we're seeing hundreds of downloads every day. That's one of them. We have other methods too. There's also some user-generated content.
TikTok as well, just because I don't necessarily agree with the statement that Gen Z or millennials are blind to advertising. They just want it to be authentic. And so talking to them in the channels that they frequent the most, right? So Instagram and TikTok, where you know you can also have snippets of the daily shows that you're hosting.
Sure. Thanks for that feedback. We'll look into TikTok for sure.
Great job. So Leslie Katz has a question here.
Thanks. I actually have two. One is, can you talk a little bit more about competition? And, I know a number of other companies have done sort of similar efforts at sort of prizes to drive customer acquisition with somewhat mixed results. So could you talk a little bit about differentiation there and how you see yourself being successful on this front? And then the second question, totally unrelated to the first, is what's your raise and where are you in that, and what are the terms?
Sure.
What are you looking to do?
Thank you. Thank you. I've looked far and wide for similar competitors and haven't found many, in fact, certainly not in cannabis. So the closest analog I could find is Groupon, which is quite different because it requires businesses to give up a very substantial portion of the offer, whereas ours does not. So there's not a lot of competition that I found. If you're more familiar with competitors that are similar to ours, I'd be happy to look into those as well. With regards to the terms of the raise, we're raising $3.6 million to buy us 18 months of runway without any revenue, although we are just on the cusp of making revenue. We were in the process of rolling out a beta with 4 California brands representing about 400 retailers when this virus kicked in. So, but we're close to producing revenue, and it's a convertible note with 20% discount.
Yeah, look, tech is going to be very scalable. Advertising is very scalable. Eyeballs are precious. And, I think Nancy's feedback about speaking to the market where they are is great feedback. And these are some great questions. So let's go to the panel now for the scores on Daily Bonfire. Luna, do you have a question? Sorry.
So Ryan Miller and a friend of mine, Leon, who's also on the call, and a couple other people who know that I worked with Heaven, formerly GetHeaven.com, had this literally exact same model, and it completely failed. I'm not saying that that's going to happen because I know how brilliant Mark and Pamela and their team are, and I'm a humongous fan of Hello MD and Dimitri and Ngayo and the media, and the entire system is badass. I feel like if anyone wants to talk to me, I helped found that company a year and a half ago, and recently it went under and is currently owing $300,000 to its investors. And there were a lot of pitfalls and a lot of things that could have been avoided. They initially went through bud tender incentives, like spiffing them out, dealing with developers. So Mark, I would love to have a conversation with you too, because I think it is an amazing opportunity. And there's just so many ways that with one misstep or one going the wrong direction, for example, Instagram all of a sudden changing something changed our whole algorithm, or LH passing a law changed our ability to do certain things. So there were a lot of pitfalls, and it was our exact plan, or we had your exact plan. So I would just love to talk to you offline about it. But
thank you, Luna. I'll follow up with you. Yeah, I'll follow up with you. Thank you very much. Yeah, appreciate it.
It's always good to hear about the bumps and bruises. So somebody else has already suffered them. So great feedback. Let's jump into the scores, and we'll start with Leslie.
No, I think there's a real opportunity here. I thought it was a good presentation, and excited about what you're doing. And I think it'll be helpful to get some of Luna's feedback, and I think others. So I think there is a pathway forward here. The companies that I was more familiar with were not in the cannabis space, but I've always thought it's an interesting approach to customer acquisition. So give it a 4. And good luck.
And Nurit Raphael, Own a Life.
Hey, it's so good to see you, Mark, and you're always so phenomenal on all your pitches that I've seen throughout the years. This is exciting, and I have to admit, every time I shop online now, I look for a coupon, so I really feel like this is something there. So I'm going to go with Leslie with a 4.
Thank you.
And Luna.
I putting aside my extreme disillusionment and disappointment with my experience around this, I think if it is done right and with your team, who I know are just incredible and stellar, it's going to make it work. So I'll give it a 4 as well.
Thank you.
Nancy Roberts.
I'm going to give it a 4. I think introducing this new advertising channel to this industry is super important, because you're right, there are so many limitations right now. But I do think that you need to evaluate your user acquisition strategy beyond just influencers.
Good feedback. And then Sandra Miller.
Yeah, I think I really like this a lot, and I think the world has changed just in the last couple of weeks to the extent that this could be even more compelling for you. And I guess I think customer acquisition is important, but I also have questions about customer retention and then being able to, for growth down the road. Those are, I think, some of your challenges. That said, I'm at a 4.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Debra Chan.
Yeah, I agree with pretty much everything that Leslie said. And Sandra, I was going to mention something about the retention as well. That's very key to keep them. I mean, I look at my own behavior. I was a big fan of Groupon for many years, and I don't even touch their website or touch their emails. They just sit there in the inbox. So I'll give it a 4. Thank you.
All right.
Feedback. Mike McCormick.
Yeah, really cool looking product. It looks fun. I always worry just how hard it is to get a consumer's attention on everything, right? Like for a consumer software product, your competition isn't just display ads, but it's like Instagram and TikTok. And so just, being thoughtful, like Luna said, about user acquisition, I think is going to be important. So I will give a 3.
Great feedback.
Yeah.
Alex Kwon.
The idea is great. It's a great pitch. I think that if the idea is a 4, but I'm going to give you a 3 because your burn rate and how you kind of get the critical mass is going to be important, and the speed at which you have to do it because of the window of opportunity that you have. And I think that in the current capital environment, raising money to keep getting there, to get to that point of scale and understanding your burn rate to get there is going to be the challenge. But the idea is fantastic. If you can pull it off, I mean, it's going to be a home run. But to get there, it's a tall task just because of those external factors currently in the marketplace.
Got it. Thanks.
Got it. So it looks like we got a 30 there for Daily Bonfire, another high quality score. So 30 for Daily Bonfire. Great job, Mark. Very compelling app, very scalable. And it's one of those things where when something like this takes off, it could be very scalable. And look, who doesn't want more sales and more people checking in at their dispensary, right? That's something all dispensaries appreciate. So, if a dispensary needs to get some banking in place too, they can talk to Debra and have a full stack. They can get some banking with Debra. They can get some legal with Leslie, and, so much contributions. And so great job, Daily Bonfire. We've got one pitch left to go, and it's Herron Family Farms by Mike Herron. And every once in a while, I meet a founder that just has a stellar background, has been at on Wall Street, and has a very succinct vision for how they want their business to be, and a belief in almost the impossible, right? Of being able to pull off like a big, at scale, high risk, high reward, capital intensive program. And it starts though, usually with self-funding and getting things to a certain place, where I believe that Herron has gotten to a certain place where it's ready to get to the next level. And so we are just delighted to welcome here Mike Herron from Herron Family Farms in California.
Good evening. My name is Michael Herron, and I am the Chief Executive Officer of Herron Family Farms, a Green Beach Ventures-owned company. Green Beach Ventures is the parent company of Herron Family Farms and other cannabis industry-related companies that offer investors the opportunity to participate in a fully vertical cannabis operation, from cultivation to distribution, marketing to sales, manufacturing to technology, that also offer franchise and royalty revenue opportunities. We are seeking a $10 million investment for a 30% ownership stake in our parent company to help us expand and launch each part of our vertical business model, from expanding our licensed farm cultivation operation to opening multiple non-storefront dispensaries throughout California, including a few traditional storefronts that will allow us to sell our products at 4 to 6 times their current wholesale price. Our executive management team is comprised of myself, my wife Melanie, and son Michael Jr. Together combined, we have over 6 decades of professional experience, from leading Wall Street startups to running billion-dollar operations in the investment and logistics industry, along with 6 years in cannabis cultivation, compliance, technology, and regenerative agricultural practices, including most recently leading a cannabis technology company from startup to a successful multi-million-dollar acquisition. Herron Family Farms is the first commercially scaled probiotic and organically grown cannabis cultivation operation in California. We practice various sustainability practices while feeding our plants beneficial microbes throughout the growing process, helping to improve the overall quality and health of our cannabis flowers. And with an outside investment, we can help increase our production eightfold through greenhouses and the acquisition of a second farm. We are currently launching our first branded products this May, which are our pre-rolls, a convenient half-gram dog walker style marijuana cigarette with an attractive price point. Using this year's upcoming harvest, we'll also be launching our own packaged flower, including convenient 1-gram sample packs and our hard candy line. We anticipate receiving our commercial nursery license this year that will provide us with an additional profitable revenue stream, offering area farmers climatized probiotic organic clones. Our investment offering includes cannabis delivery solutions, as they prove to have lower overhead costs than traditional storefronts, offer convenience, and help new consumers, such as senior citizens, avenues to overcome insecurities of walking into storefront. Our delivery solutions combine the Amazon Fresh and the Dollar Man Shave Club product ordering models, both for women by way of fairygreenmother.com and for the general recreational and senior citizens market, potheadclub.com. Our mobile ordering app, Canistark, is a fee-based referral revenue model now being developed, completes our cannabis delivery solutions platform that we will use to attract strategic dispensary partners throughout the state. Our retail sales objective is to establish a series of non-storefront retail dispensaries from Northern to Southern California, along with some strategically located traditional storefronts that will help establish a basis plan from which to franchise throughout the country. We own many brands and products to be developed and franchised, but one thing remains necessary: the need to cost-effectively advertise to reach our targeted consumer audiences. WeAreCannabis.com provides us with our own free run-of-the-mill advertising while capturing advertising dollars and fees from our competitors to help us grow our own customer footprint. WeAreCannabis.com is a one-stop information portal for the cannabis industry that marries the revenue business models of Facebook, LinkedIn, Amazon, Instagram, and Craigslist, all while controlling the information flow and capturing all the consumer behavior data that will be monetized in the future. Our expected gross annual revenues are projected to grow from the $1 to $2 million range to the upwards of $100 million per year over the next 5 years with this requested outside investment. 90% of our asking investment amount will be invested in real estate, existing revenue generating business, new construction equipment, and limited labor, which we believe will help mitigate much of the investment risk for the investor. We offer the investor a rare opportunity to invest into a fully vertical cannabis business led by experienced executives with a proven track record of successful execution, complete with multiple places for the investor to exit through individual business line sale rollouts in both the private and public markets, which we plan to begin over the next 6 to 7 years. Thank you for giving Herron Family Farms the opportunity to earn a portion of your investment business, and I now warmly welcome any and all of your questions.
All right, Mike Herron from Herron Family Farms. We have Mike by phone. Mike, are you still here?
Yes, I'm here. Can everybody hear me okay?
Right. Yes, thanks for hanging out. I know it's been a long show, but it's better than watching COVID news right now, huh?
Right, agreed.
Yeah, so we have a question here right out of the gates from Sandra Miller.
Yeah, Mike, nice presentation, really fast. So the last thing you spoke of is something that obviously investors care a lot about, which is your exit plan. So can you expand upon that a little bit more? Because that went really fast, and just sort of the timing you're anticipating for that, and so forth.
Absolutely. Great question. Thank you. And yes, I try to cram a lot of information into 4 minutes and 20 seconds. We did it to the second. But that being said, the idea behind it is if you can kind of look at the vertical business model as a hedge fund or a fund of funds as it is. So each one of those tranches offers an exit strategy that can either be public or private. In this instance, if you looked and broke down the farm area, it offers the opportunity from real estate development prices and things such as that nature, as well as the overall, revenue that we generate from the actual production. That can be done by private. Having something like WeAreCannabis.com that's more than likely going to be more of an exit strategy that's going to take us public in that component. We look to actually have a public exit offered somewhere in the neighborhood of 36 to 60 months, being ambitious with that. That being said, along with some of our other product models, such as potheadclub.com and fairygreenmother.com, we see that more as a franchise opportunity, something that we can immediately scale throughout the country to other states, even including like Oklahoma, for instance.
Okay, thank you.
There was a question in the chat from Ted. How do you compete with legacy farms that have already paid down their CapEx and don't need the same investment that you do?
No, agreed. And right now, we have been growing everything from revenues ourselves, so we certainly know where they're coming from. We have actually invested all of our own monies into this. We've not taken out any other additional monies. And as it stands, the business plan in front of you, we're going to self-fund and continue to self-fund until a third party comes in. So while, again, we can truly appreciate the ability to scale out of existing revenues, the only way we can see going out there and capturing significant footprint now and being able to build long-term loyalty is to take on some outside investment. We believe the return on investment, though, over the upfront expenses over time will greatly exceed our, our opportunity and opportunities for investors versus growing and continuing to bootstrap out.
Any other questions from the panel? All right, well, you could tell, Herron Family Farms, it's got a pretty big vision. And so if there's a strategic investor out there that likes a big vision, a big play with a multi-phase-in approach, Herron Family Farms has already established the first piece of real estate and used all their own capital to get to this point. And so expansion is next. So, all right. So thank you very much, Herron Family Farms, Mike Herron, for the presentation. And let's go to the panelists for our final score of the evening. Will Herron Family Farms snipe the win here? Let's find out. And we'll go in reverse order here to mix it up. Alex Kwon, please.
I'll give you a 3.
Mike McCormick.
I'll do a 3 as well.
Debra Chan.
4.
Sandra Miller.
I'm going to go with a 4 as well. Really nice presentation.
Nancy Roberts.
I'll go with the 3.
LunaStower.com.
Also a 3.
What's your dog's name?
Nube.
Is she? He.
She.
She's adorable. Hi, Nube. Well, at least you got to do some home quarantine with a great dog like that, huh?
Right? We're lucky.
Next up is Nurit Raphael. I'll own a life.
I'm going to go with a 3 as well.
Thank you. And then Leslie Katz wrapping it up with the final score of the evening.
I'll go with a 4.
All right. So Alexander Kwon, if you can tally those up for us to get our final score, and then we will announce the results. And I just want to thank Michael for quarterbacking, and I want to thank Alex Kwon for quarterbacking. I want to thank Gina Cooper for being in my ear behind the scenes, making me look smart with some of my remarks sometimes when I stay on her script. And I just got word from Alex that we have a 27 here for Herron Family Farm. So everybody did great today. And our winner is Flower Company, Ted Lichtenberger, taking the at-420 pitch, March 24th, 2020. Congratulations, Flower Co. Ted, you have anything to say?
You, Evan. This is a long time in the making because the last time didn't quite bring it home. So in 2016. So it's good to be back.
Yeah, we can't wait to get a trophy there over at Flower Company. Great company. You know, I really appreciated all the companies today. 11 Biomics, CB Therapeutics, ZAM Grinders, Cannected, Meristematic, Flower Company, Murmmr, Incredibuds, Daily Bonfire, Herron Family Farms, investors. You've got 10 companies here. we got one winner, but really there's 10 fundable companies here. And we want you to fund these companies. This is the time, there's an arbitrage opportunity here. So great job to all the presenters. I was so impressed with how you did today. We'll have the archive up for you very shortly. And thank you to all the attendees. Thank you for staying and hanging out and being a part of the At 420 pitch and a 3-hour event. It was like a real one at the Twitter building at Runway. And thank you to the Runway community for being there for WeedClub and continuing to support us. I don't have to physically be at Runway to feel like a part of the Runway community. The staff at Runway does that for all of us. And so we really appreciate that. And, being a startup ourselves and having a community like Runway is part of why we're able to be successful and get all these great companies and panelists together. So Leslie Katz, Nurit Raphael, Luna Stower, Nancy Roberts, Sandra Miller, Debra Chan, Mike McCormick, Alex Kwon, you all are fantastic. I thank you for putting in this energy and time to help these companies. You guys did fantastic. The questions were excellent. The feedback was excellent. All the startups, we're going to connect you so you can do business amongst each other. And WeedClub is here for you every step of the way as your companies grow. Debra Chan will be there for you with some institutional capital. And Luna is there for you to consult. And Ona is looking for more products to sell in Marin. And it just goes on that we're building an ecosystem here together. And that's what At 420 Pitch and WeedClub.com is all about. So my name's Evan Horowitz. It's been my pleasure to host this event. And we wish everybody that you'll be healthy and that your businesses will succeed and that everyone will have an equal opportunity, that you'll have the opportunity to be successful, to compete out there, and to have a business in this market. And so, look, investors, you guys cashed out of the market. A lot of you guys cashed out. You're liquid. Let's get some of that dry powder in some of these amazing founders' hands, all right? If you like Farmhouse Inc., the parent company of WeedClub, you can buy our stock if you'd like to. It's FMHS on the OTC Pink Exchange. We'll be filing our S1 registration in about 2 weeks, which will bring our information current and get our reporting current. So you'll want to look out for that. And again, congratulations to all 10 companies. And we're going to leave the chat open here too, because there's maybe more questions or anything that anybody wants to ask each other or share with each other. But I just want to say again that at a tough time like this, to make the time sacrifice and put it all back together, it just felt good to be back into the cannabis community together with all of you here today. So let's do it again soon.
Thank you, Evan.
Thank you, Evan. Thanks so much.
Operation Evac too. Thank you, Operation Evac.
Thank
you. London Bridge made the music too. Big shout out to DJ London Bridge. And we really appreciate you donating this music.
And shout out to Evan Horowitz for being a big offer, getting everyone together. You are the shit. You are the pitcher of the team. You are the connector. You're the agenda. Bless your fucking self.
You guys are great. All right. Everybody have a great night. I hope you enjoyed the show. We'll do it again soon.